Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
As well. What a move from the 48. Oh, look at this. And onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
For the upcoming right-hander, brake 30 meters later and ease off the pressure.
Transatlantic pride. 2 weeks of waiting just to feel the heat. iRacing legends where the titans meet. iRacing legends where the titans meet. Where the titans meet. SRI, speed and the glory. SRI, write the whole story. Transatlantic Trophy, the prize is in sight. McLaren Thunder under broadcast light. GT3 and the GT4 go head to head. Hear the engine screaming until the sun is dead. Hold the phone, turn the volume up. Broadcasting legend Paul Walsh is in the booth. Every lap is a showcase, every corner is the truth. Winning trophies, winning prizes, racing for the crown. The fastest sim racers in the whole world, no backing down. SRI, Transatlantic Trophy, let the broadcast begin. SRI!
Hello, good evening, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the season opening round of the SimRacing International Transatlantic Trophy Season 1, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing, powered by trophi.ai, and of course, this being none other than a Motorsport UK Esports approved championship for your eyes and brilliant viewing. We're here today then to kick off our season with aplomb, and we start with our SRI American Cup. 5 out of 10 rounds localised in the United States of America, seeing our drivers take on many a course which the McLaren Trophy Series of the US of A has visited in the last couple of years. And we begin it all at the first ever circuit to refer to itself as a speedway as a 1909 is of course none other than the Indianapolis International Speedway. A circuit which is definitely known for its ability to produce plenty of brilliant pattern action on the oval, but as of the year 2000, it saw its road course conceived and built to attract the likes of Formula 1 Grand Prix. Now of course there was the highly controversial 2005 Formula 1 Grand Prix, which saw the retirement of Formula 1 racing from the circuit. However, it's not stopped GT class racing going racing on an annual basis, particularly when it comes to like the Indoor Sports Car Championship and also GT World Challenge America. 2.43 miles in length, plenty of corners, chicanes, hairpins, and some long straights thrown into the mix, and you can be certain this is the perfect circuit with which for us to get ourselves underway for an absolutely action-packed season ahead. Alas, where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune in tonight via one of two Avadia media channels for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, you can be tuning in via the Motorsport UK Esports YouTube channel. Indeed, hello to you guys and girls tuning in via that platform. Alternatively, you can be joining via the SimRacing International YouTube channel, and hello to you guys and girls tuning in via that approach. But either way, regardless of how you tune in, all your broadcasts are going to be brought to you live from Circuit Side on those chat platforms, and the commentary and your host will be provided by none other than myself. For the uninitiated, my name is Paul Walsh from Paul Walsh Productions, and I'll be covering every single round and bringing it to you as it unfolds. But ladies and gentlemen, we've got to jump right into the thick of the details. We need to bring you up to speed with the story coming into this championship, indeed what it's all about, and all that and more, particularly for those of you who missed the pre-season event 2 weeks ago, and now on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. So without further ado, let's get into the nitty-gritty, let's get into the details, and tell the story of what to expect here in our inaugural season of the Transatlantic Trophy here at SimRacing International, powered by trophi.ai. Now, of course, we must begin with a huge shout-out to Motorsport UK Esports Division in the fact that this is a Motorsport UK Esports approved championship. Now, for some time, SimRacing International has been a Motorsport UK Esports recommended community, and we're very grateful for that recognition. We've gone a step further, working with our good friends at Motorsport UK, whereby we are co-hosting this championship alongside Motorsport UK, and it will carry the iconic badge and status of being an approved championship by them, and you'll see slightly stricter than normal driving standards being required, alongside an approved panel of stewards being used for any post-race instance. Indeed, in the move to try and bring together a formality of stewarding within the esports space of motorsport, just alongside real-life motorsport, that's exactly what we're going to bring to the table here, and you can be certain the race is going to be fast, furious and fair, and when it goes outside of being fair, well, the stewards will be there to make sure things are reeled back in and everyone is kept honest. Of course, if you want to find out a little bit more about Motorsport UK Esports, do go on Google and search for Motorsport UK Esports, and you'll find the webpage there. And if you want to know a little bit more about SimRacing International, our community, we'll be sure to use the QR code on screen, or to join the official Discord. More on that a little bit later. But big thank you to Motorsport UK Esports for enable us to make this possible, and in fact we look forward to working them closely throughout the entirety of this season. But it's not just Motorsport UK Esports must give a huge shout out to, because we have got plenty of sponsors behind this championship, and we must talk about them. Firstly, of course, our title sponsor for this season, that is trophi.ai. No wonder it's the Transatlantic Trophy spelt with an I rather than a Y, and we'll do check out trophi.ai's free 7-day trial. All the details at their website link below, that www.trophi.ai, whereby if you're looking to improve your ability on the virtual circuit, well, trophi.ai will help you there, and indeed make sure you're not wasting any time trying to grind away at becoming a much faster and much more consistent sim racer, where their IAI package enables you to improve on the fly and after each and every race session or circuit session, whereby all the data is analysed using the software provided by Driver 61. Indeed, you'll become a very fast and very quick sim racer, no doubt about it, as you look to make your journey all the way to the top echelons of the grid, and particularly the top splits on iRacing. We must also give a shout out to our sponsor, Carme Modern Technology, our trophy provider for this season, and we've had a long-term relationship with Carme for some time now. We're very happy to have them back with us. And last, let's not forget Sim Coach there, where you can unlock your true potential. The sim coaching experience provided by many a driver from Effect Simulations, the highly decorated esports team, and they've provided the setups for this season on the cars, whereby this is a fixed setup championship, more on that very shortly, with all the cars being absolutely equal, some absolutely incredible setups provided us by SimCoach. Indeed, they've been able to put together some of the prizes alongside trophi.ai and also the crowning trophies of Kame. And we must also give a big shout out to sponsor and official photographer for this season, and that is none other than Mr. Hedge, iRacing Photography. Indeed, if you're looking for pixel precise and perfect photography, look no other than Mr. Hedge, or Adam Hedgecock as he's known. Because I'll tell you one thing, you look for photos and he will definitely deliver you some of the finest out there, and you'd think you were looking at real life racing with the quality, as you may have noticed in our intro reel where we did have the small segment dedicated to Mr. Hedge, iRacing Photography. So huge thank you to all of our championship sponsors. We're indebted to them for the fact they're supporting this championship, and without further ado, let's tell you more now about the championship itself. Because of course we have 10 rounds of racing. 2 weeks ago we opened up informally with our pre-season media event at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit on the 29th of July, and there we got to see a mix of drivers make their way out onto the circuit, but not the full field of 60. 30 teams will be taken to the grid for this season, the 2 driver teams, whereby they can have reserves also stand in for them. More on that very shortly, but the fact of the matter is we're expecting 30 GT4s and 30 GT3s out there racing on a fortnightly basis, and then we take on 10 rounds of incredible racing action. The first 5 was mentioned only months ago, the SI American Cup, focusing on the circuits visited by the McLaren Trophy America in its history, starting with Indianapolis today. In 2 weeks' time we make our way to the Miami International Autodrome for the Grand Prix circuit there, the very young circuit conceived for Formula 1, but seen its use cases expanded over the last 3 years to include the likes of McLaren Trophy and also Porsche Cup. We then make our way all the way to just shy of San Francisco in the US state of California for the Sonoma Raceway circuit on the 9th of September. It's undulations bound to catch out even the best of our drivers, and then we'll be making our way to Road Atlanta for round number 4, the roller coaster ride of American road racing, if not in the world, and then we go to a true power circuit, Road America in the US state of Wisconsin, to complete the SI American Cup. The second half of the season there'll be no break effectively, but we break it up by making our way to the European continent in the Motorsport UK European Cup, and that'll begin with round number 6 on the 21st of October at the Monza Grand Prix circuit, the venerable Italian Cathedral Speed. Then we head in November to the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, followed up by Mazzano, the World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli, and then we'll be making our way in December to the Barcelona Catalonia Grand Prix circuit, hopefully for a bit warmer conditions compared to being in the United Kingdom, which is where we hail from as a community, and then we head into the Portimao Grand Prix circuit in Portugal to complete the season and bring the curtain down on the 16th of December, with those final 5 circuits in the Motorsport UK European Cup being focused on circuits visited by the McLaren Trophy Europe Series, and therefore we've tried to base as many of our circuit choices as possible on real-life circuits that our McLarens will go racing at, for the simple reason that we want to make sure we've got the best circuits out there to deliver the best possible action, and also give our drivers the best possible opportunity to show their skills. And plenty of skill will be shown, no doubt about it, as we look to our championship rules. Now, in terms of what you need to know for the rules and the race details, we're not going to go into all of this. Perhaps forget the left-hand side for the most part there, although do note the fact we have maximum fuel limits, 60% for our GT3s and 70% for our GT4s. Now, car-wise, we are running a fixed set of cars. In the GT3 class, we will only have the McLaren 720S Evo available to our drivers, and in the GT4 class, it's only the McLaren 570S machine, that GT4 there. But either way, both cars have an extra 10% power going to the engine, and they have 50 kilograms of weight shed from them, so much more lively cars than the standard ones available on iRacing, and fixed setups are being run on all the cars, as provided by our official sponsor, SimCoach, and will be set up for each round of championship. And as we can see there, with the fuel allowances combined with those setups across our 60 and 90 minute races, it's definitely going to lead to a lot of intrigue in both our standard feature rounds, of which we have one today, and our 90 minute endurance race rounds, which are a bit less frequent, but definitely throw a bit more of an opening to strategy, if you will. Now, all the format will remain the same, where it's a 60 minute or a 90 minute race, whereby we do have a qualifying session that's 30 minutes in duration, and that qualifying session is currently underway. We'll be coming back to it in approximately 10 minutes time, and we'll be able to give you the insights there of what exactly is going down. Then we do have a 5-minute warm-up period and a driver comfort break, and at approximately 8:05 UK time every evening we will be going racing. After we completed the racing, we will be bringing you post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. Instant point wise and damage, well, damage is definitely on the cars, and our drivers have one fast repair available should they need to use it. As for the instant point limit, 16, if you get to that you'll be receiving a drive-through penalty. Get to 26, you'll be disqualified. We don't change the limits even for the 90-minute races, which are longer. We're going to be using rolling starts, the SimRacing International edition of the rolling start, whereby we don't go on green necessarily. We go when the lead driver gets to the start-finish line, albeit that will be for the GT3s, and the GT4s will be expected to hold formation somewhere in the region of 5 to 10 seconds behind, preferably 5 seconds, stay quite close to the GT3s, and then they will go when they come out of the final corner, but before the start-finish line as well. And we've got quite strict qualifying scrutiny as well on top of that. But let's talk a little bit more about our prizes. Those are the rules and regulation on screen, and let's talk exactly what's on offer. So first and foremost, the trophies and the medals, the things race that everybody wants to get their hands on at the end of the season. We do have Drivers' Championships for GT3 and GT4, whereby the winner of either Drivers' Championship, there are no driver classes, everybody is in the same championship, they'll be taking home a fully customised trophy specific to this series. However, those who finish 2nd through to 5th in the GT3 and GT4 classes, they will take home the bespoke Black Edition SimRacing International Championship trophies as well. As for the Teams Championship, of which perhaps this is the bigger focus for the majority of the grid, we'll see the top 3. In fact, all 3 drivers in the championship winning teams in the Pro Teams Championship, as well as in the Pro-Am Teams Championship, they will be taking home the custom trophies. Indeed, each team consists of 2 drivers, but there is a 3rd reserve driver who can stand in for a grand total of 5 rounds over the course of the season if needed by the team. And the teams that finish 2nd and 3rd, well, they'll be taking home their own SRI Black Edition Championship trophies there in the Pro and Pro-Am teams. But all participants will be receiving a commemorative medal for racing as part of the season, regardless of whether they compete in the GT3 or the GT4 class. And indeed, they'll be very happy to know that those are being built in the United Kingdom with love and care in Carmade's manufacturing facility in Hemel Hempstead and then shipped domestically or internationally to all of the drivers. But there are other prizes up for grabs as well, including, of course, what is some championship vouchers in the iRacing format for what will be competing in the 2 cups, whereby the SI America Cup, there'll be 30 United States dollars up for grabs, the top 3 teams in each class in the first half of the season, and that'll be in the Pro and the Pro-Am Teams Championships, and we do the same in the European Cup later on in the season for rounds 6 through to 10, where we base it on the number of points accrued by the team in those specific rounds. We also do have a $15 iRacing credit voucher up for grabs for the top 5 drivers in each class, I do believe, and indeed the top 5 lead drivers in both GT3 and GT4, and that will be based on what will be in the second half of the season, I do believe there. We also do have, on top of that, I think it's the safest drivers. In fact, let me correct myself there. It's not in terms of how they performed on points. It'll be the most safest drivers there with the least number of instant points and the highest safety rating based on the SimRacing International standards, and they'll be taking home the $15. So you don't need to be the fastest to win some money. Indeed, if you're the safest driver out there and calm and consistent, we're definitely keeping our eyes out for you, and you will be rewarded. As for the 2 personalised gaming mouse mats to be won, those are up for grabs as well, and they're for the lead drivers of the team with the best livery as judged by the SimRacing International panel. And we also do see their 2 90-minute Sim Coach team sessions to be won. And well, the live draw wasn't done in the pre-season event. It's going to be done today, very shortly. In fact, we will come to that. And in fact, I do believe the only other prize we do need to talk about is that we do have 1 Butt Kicker Gamer Pro haptic system, and that's going to be up for grabs in the season finale, and it will be a raffle draw, which will be done in the season finale broadcast for any driver who is competing at least 7 out of 10 rounds. So reserve drivers are not eligible, but it'll be any driver who's competing at least 7 out of 10 rounds. They will be put into the pool, and we'll spin the wheel, and we will decide who's going to be those who take home the Butt Kicker Gamer Pro haptic system. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to do the prize draw then for our 2 90-minute Sim Coach team coaching sessions. And well, we're going to go straight into it here, and this is going to be for the first of our 2 prizes. It's time for draw number 1. So the wheel comes up on the screen. 28 out of 30 teams are eligible. We do exclude the Sim Coach and the Sim Coach with glass tip racing teams. But as the wheel spins, where does it land? And the answer is going to be... It's going to be DXT Motorsports or Dexterous Motorsports who take home the first of the winner's prize there. A big congratulations to Dexterous Motorsports. Luck's definitely on their side. And well, they'll be taking home 1 of the 2 90-minute Sim Coach team coaching sessions. So we have our first winner. But what about our second winner meanwhile? Well, let's find out. We're now going to just reset the wheel and get ready to spin it once again. In fact, we're ready to go. We've taken Dexterous Motorsports off the wheel as well. So we're now down to 27 eligible teams. And let's spin the wheel. So there is our wheel up on the screen there. And, well, as we now get ready to spin it, 3, 2, 1, and... Oh, it's taking a little bit more time than expected. There we go. And it's spinning now. And who's going to be taking home the second of the 90-minute Sim Coach team coaching session prizes? It is going to be, well, it looks like it's going to be Axis Sim Sports there, just about, with SimWorks. So congratulations to them as well. They'll be taking on home the second of the coaching session prizes. So huge congratulations there to our winners, Dexterous Motorsports and Axis Sim Sports with SimWorks. Both of them taking home that raffle prize. And they'll be contacted by the SimRacing International Administration after today's racing in order to receive their prizes. So with the draw done, let's talk a bit more about our driver lineups then for this season. We start off in the GT3 class. Many of these names, if you're a regular at SimRacing International, you will know. But to be fair, if you race on iRacing, you'll know many of these names. Perhaps the most notable one is right at the top there, Andrew Dawson, the Sim Coach by Glass Tip Racing driver. and the head or the manager at SimCoach, indeed one of the most accomplished drivers on the sim racing platforms where it's Gran Turismo Sports, the founder, I do believe, or at least the manager at one point of Vanquish Esports, and you've seen how far they've gone on in the sphere of Gran Turismo 7 as well, perhaps under now the stewardship of Nintino Costa. But what we can see is the 8,901 iRating driver, the highest iRating driver, and well, definitely one of the favourites perhaps to take the GT3 Drivers' Championship. And then we see Marley Joff, the SimCoach driver there, with Charlie Devlin, who really excelled last time out at Silverstone, really put on a brilliant display, no doubt about it, for Future Class Racing. We have Harry Langford, Christian Ablasser, Harvey Wheeler, Matthew Croft, Russell Fowler, Ashley Brooks, Joey Ireland makes his debut in this series for SimRacing International Series there for Altitude Esports. We've got Bill Daniels making his way onto the grid, and in complete that left-hand side, John Breitenbach and Ben Bennyworth, two stalwarts of SimRacing International Series, Barbecue Bread Racing and Quetmas Motorsport, Levan Gertel and Stefano Pellegrino, who we welcome to the grid for the first time in an SRI series, and he'll be taking part with the Gazix Racing team. And welcome to Stefano. We also do have to the right there the likes of regulars, Dexterous Motorsports, Ross Young, Ray Howe as well joins the grid for what is none other, the MRC Endurance team, 491. James Howarth, he's sacrificing his Ford Mustang to go racing in a McLaren. We've also got Daniel Miller out there, and well, I do believe we've also got looking a little bit further down, the debut of Ian Cable for MRC 493, and also looking to the very bottom there, Phil Nin for Quench 9 Pegasus Panthera, Blue Raspberry, well, I'm going to be referring to him as Quench 9PP from this point onwards for the simple reason, otherwise I'll be stumbling out of words. But we also do look to our GT4 lineup, and here we can see our 30 GT4 drivers, and well, Brandon Dyer, the highest rated for Altitude Frame Esports, he's going to be racing that McLaren 570S, and he's going to have the company of Marinko Jordanowski, a staple of the Gazix Racing team, and I do believe they've got two teams entered this season. We've labelled them as teams 1 and 2, we'll show you that shortly, and Adam Wilson Weir as well for Type 2 with Next Gen Racing, joining the Next Gen Racing outfit with the Type 2 outfit joining him, and well, very happy to see Adam out there. We look forward to seeing what he can do. Also looking a bit further down, Noah Kelly for LS Racing joining the grid. It's been some time since we've seen him go racing in SimRacing International Series. We've also got Niels Kooler there, returning for Axis and SimCoach, and looking to the right, we've got none other than Robin Aston and Martin Kenyon, two stalwarts of our racing grid. Martin Kenyon, normally the key strategist out there, partnering with James Howard for this season for MJ Race Tech. We've also got there Patrick 48 for Quetmas Motorsport, making his debut in the series, and indeed I think it's the first time he's ever raced alongside Ben Bennyworth for Quetmas Motorsport, so it's going to be an interesting combination between those two. We've also got Gavin Corby, James Bostock joins the grid, and also Steve Nitz there for STN Racing, and I caught up with him earlier on, and we may have a chance to tell you a little bit about him later on today, because he does some racing in real life, and I do believe the NEC, the Nürburgring Endurance Championship. But without further ado, here's your pro teams. These are 14 teams that will be competing in the Pro Teams Championship for the ultimate prize, and there we can see your GT3 and GT4 drivers and your reserves as they've been nominated. Every team can have one. And well, I can tell you one thing, SimCoach by Glass Tech Racing, based on that combined iRating, and the sister team SimCoach, they are definitely going to be the favourites perhaps this season. But keep your eyes on Gazix Racing team, Christian Ablasser and Marinko Jordanowski, because their reserve driver, yes, it's the very accomplished endurance racing driver and DTM driver of Mirko Bortolotti, the Italian who's raced our GTE Championship, and he's going to be absolutely stellar, no doubt about it, when he get behind the hands of any wheel. Then we do see none other than DXT Motorsports a bit further down there for Ross Young and Brad Pickett, but they'll be looking to punch well above their weight, as will Simcast Racing. Yes, the guys from the Simcast Racing podcast, you got Jordan Maymart and Stephen Donnelly joining together, and team principal and reserve driver there, Stephen Wilkinson, may make his way onto the grid every so often. In the Pro-Am situation for the teams, we can see that Barbecue Bread Racing, they've just crept into what is the Pro-Am category, and well, just ahead of Quench 9PP, Berry Crush there. It's going to be very close between those two in terms of the expectations, but don't rule out the likes of LS Racing, Quetmas Motorsport, or MJK Sim Racing. The MRC teams, 491 and 493, you'll both find in the Pro-Am Teams Championship. Ray Howe and Jack Wyborn making up the 491, and Ian Cable and Chris Keenan making up the 493, and Russ Jacks as well joining them there as a reserve driver. But looking towards the back, and they'll be looking to show their underdogs who can fight high, STM Racing and Cavmax Racing. Wherever you look, there's going to be plenty of battling between these drivers. But as for our host circuit for today, well, it is none other than the Indianapolis Road Course, located in the US state of Indiana, 2.43 miles or 3.92 kilometers, depending on your preference units, but what never changes is the number of corners, 14 in total. Hairpins, sweepers, chicanes, and straights, using a bit of the oval as well. And a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track map. Also, a big thank you to the SRI production crew for putting together these brilliant graphics and bringing in that map data from Google Maps as well. And we do see those lap records there as set in real life. Could we be getting close to them today? Something tells me we may just be able to do so in our GT3s and GT4 machines, but we'll tell you more about the circuit when we do head to the qualifying session. Now, as for our reserve drivers today, who'll be standing in, GPX SimSport Xenon in their GT3 category car will have Brian Beardsworth standing in for Gareth Newton, who couldn't make it due to a late call-up at work. He's long-distance travelling at the moment. And Type 2 racing with Next Gen's GT3 driver of Harry Langford third will be stood in for by Jack Pittus, and we look forward to seeing them all out on the circuit. They're giving it everything they can in order to impress. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, just before we do go to the qualifying session, we've got about 40 minutes left, let's talk a little bit about one of our teams. And so, as we bring the operatic music down and go for something a little bit different now, perhaps a little bit of electro in the background, let's bring the spotlight to Sim Coach by Glass Tech Racing. Your three drivers there, of course, Andy Dawson in the GT3 class, in the GT4 class, Joe Glass, and the reserve driver of Leighton Austin. What do you need to know about the team? Well, firstly, taking place from the United Kingdom and the teams, and well, they are an endurance racing team. That's the best way they would describe themselves. And Andy Dawson joined the team for endurance purposes and to be there for general racing support and car setups prior to their partnership with SimCoach. And well, it does mean they really are at the core of what is the best of the coaching experience they can get from the SimCoach team. Now, keep in mind as well, Leighton Austin has been brought on board there as reserve driver at the recommendation of Andy Dawson, and will be a great addition to the unit overall, they suspect. Now, they are looking to compete for the Series Teams Championship, but overall just want to enjoy the racing and try to push all the way to the top. And in terms of their previous achievements in the sim racing sphere, they've had plenty of success in special event endurance racing, notable victories including the Daytona 24 Hours, the Nürburgring 24 Hours, and Spa 24 Hours throughout 2025 and 2026. Tell you a little bit about Glass Tech Racing. They're a detail-orientated sim racing team with a professional approach to preparation and on-track execution, focusing mainly on endurance events, and their style is typically measured with strategy rather than aggression, and they emphasise reliability, consistency, and making the right calls over long stints. Perfect then for our 90-minute races later on this season. And their team sponsors, to talk a little bit about them, will Vulcan Fasteners, the company, a British company which specialised as stockists in and suppliers in a vast range of fasteners, fixings, tooling, and welding products for the engineering, construction, and pipeline water industries. And they've enabled the team to compete in a number of series as the team's primary sponsor, as well as enabling a driver progression program which has seen many of their drivers reach 4,000 I rating and higher. And they also have Knife Wars there, a secondary sponsor to the team, primarily in League Series, and it's a Swedish company specialising in an innovative supply of advanced glass processing and optical fibre preparation equipment. Also, they are sponsored by SimStrat, a bespoke tool developed in-house to deliver endurance tools from race preparation, stint planning, fuel calculation, and other advanced calculations throughout their endurance events. And also SimCoach there, as we mentioned, the sim racing coaching company, who have played an absolutely pivotal role in helping the team get to where they are today, and indeed can help you get on your journey as well there. But we'll talk a little bit more about one of our other teams later on, but more without further ado, let's head to circuit side, ladies and gentlemen. As we do, well, with not too long left in this qualifying session, how exactly are all our drivers getting on, I hear you ask? And well, we can see there are plenty of cars out on the road, and you'd think they were racing each other right now, how close they are all making their way down that start finish straight. But we do have a grand total here today, I do believe, of 52 entrants out of our 60 drivers. And well, it's looking a bit close there, as Charlie Devlin definitely getting a bit elbows out with one of his fellow GT3 drivers, as we do see a GT4 stepping aside. Still 11 minutes left on the clock. Right now, time to be found by many. Marley Joff being the quickest driver out there in GT3 at the moment, with Devlin meanwhile finding himself 2 attempts behind, and it's a further 2 attempts to Matthew Croft by comparison. But all these drivers trying to push on. Now, the interesting thing, of course, with Indianapolis, as you may have noticed with the pole provisional time at the moment, in the GT4 class there of Jack Wyborn, this is a circuit where there's not too much of a difference between the GT3s and GT4s. It's only approximately at this time round about a grand total of 8 seconds. It is a short lap, however, given the lap time, so therefore we will expect these cars going to be quite comparable on pace, albeit on the straight you'll see those GT3s a bit quicker, and also through the sweeping bends where they've got the greater amount of downforce to abuse compared to the GT4 cars, but going through the very tight corners they'll be roughly equivalent on pace. And Jack Wyborn currently the fastest of your GT4 drivers, down 29.719 as he makes his way through the sweep of turn 14 to go on to another qualifying lap. Renko Jordanowski currently the second fastest in GT4, 400ths behind, and it's a further 500ths behind to Lewis Johnson by comparison, and all these drivers so close together at the moment, no doubt about it, and it's a further 3.5 tenths to Brandon Dyer. But we're a bit rude then not to talk about Matthew Croft, who's the third fastest GT3 driver, as he does leave the pit lane, and there he is, making his way down pit road at the moment, and a whole new set of liveries for the Axis SimSport teams here. We've got 3 of them, SimWorks, AB Designs, and SimCoach, I do believe, and well, all running new liveries as designed by AB Designs, or Ashley Brooks. Very proud of these, and he gave us a preview of them in the season opener of our 3rd season of the GTE Championship, which we did broadcast post-round as of yesterday evening on the SimRacing International YouTube channel, and well, they're here today. And I can tell you one thing, they are some absolutely beautiful liveries out there. Now, I've also been a little bit rude, not saying hello to a number of you who have popped into the respective YouTube chats, including none other there than Espen Dozier, also Andy Chell, Also, we do say hello to Joe Sparrow there, who's cheering on Donnelly. Also, Moylan there, cheering on none other than Glasstep. That's Matt Hoyland, I do believe, or Moyland as he's abridged to. We also do say hello to Denny Ploger there. And also, we do say hello to Barry Wemman there. Absolutely over the moon. We're bringing home is the 90-minute team coaching session with SimCoach as part of the raffle. And I hope you're all doing well, gentlemen and ladies tuning in, of course. And if you are tuning in via the Motorsport UK Esports YouTube chat at the moment, don't be shy. We can see you as well. Do feel free to say hi and let us know how you're doing. As right now, drivers definitely pushing towards the very top end here of what is this qualifying session. But as we get closer and closer towards the end, how important is qualifying going to be here today? And the answer to that is very important. Indianapolis, a very peculiar circuit when it comes to GT racing, particularly multi-class racing. As we said only moments ago, the problem with this circuit is cars are typically very similar on pace. And if you do see multi-class racing action, so likes of LMP2s, GT3s, and also in prototypes racing around here, you'll find that normally it is relegated to the straights, which is where you'll see the multi-class action occur, and you'll see the overtakes through the corners. Not too much of a difference unless it's through the sweepers of turns 3 and 4, for example, alternatively turn 10 through to turn 14. But otherwise, normally cars are very close on apex speed, and it really does mean finding traffic at the wrong time is not going to help, and being up front, being the lead car, can typically help in such situations. Putting yourself on pole or putting yourself on the front row of your class will come in handy later on when we start to see the segue or the interleaving of what will be the two classes together, and we will see that happen quite quickly given the shortness of the lap. But as Bill Daniels makes his way around, the American driver here on home soil, we have a couple of Americans on the grid for this season, I do believe. He's one of them here today. And we look forward to seeing what he can do. Although I don't know if this is home circuit, to be fair, given the United States of America is quite vast, with 50 states, Indiana being just one of them, from which the circuit does take its name. Although technically, and funny enough, if you were to look at where this circuit sits in Indiana, it's actually sat in a town called Speedway, which is the town that's been built around the circuit upon its conception in the early 1900s. And it has gone on to become none other than what has become one of the premier circuits in the world, not just the US of A. It has the nickname of the Brickyard in reference to the fact this circuit, when it was originally erected, it was erected as a racing surface of bricks, and those bricks now, the only ones that remain, and they remain there for posterity, on the start-finish line. I do believe it's a half-a-metre segment of bricks that you'll find there, and indeed, every time somebody takes a victory, they normally make their way over to the bricks and essentially get on the knees and kiss them in honour of all those who have raced here in the past and taken victory. I do believe that is essentially the standard, which everyone's expected to do, although you don't have to do it, to be fair. There's no rule, but it is the gentleman's agreement there for winners. But that's not a gentleman's agreement to go to the grass there for Robin Pownier. The Swede going very deep into the grass, and well, they say go touch grass, but not in this instance. The McLaren driver, as he's going to have to take his way back into the circuit very carefully. But it is a pretty crowded circuit out there, no doubt about it. But what does it look like on board for a driver, I hear you ask? Well, let's get on board lap or two. I think it's only appropriate we do jump on board with Bill Daniels, home soil and whatnot. He's currently the 10th fastest in GT3, and let's see what it's all about then as he makes his way down towards another lap with 6 minutes to go. So full throttle as he makes his way down the start-finish straight, and as he does, getting ready to go into that braking zone for turn number 1. But it's a long run. We are using essentially the bottom quarter of the oval, and then he'll shortly go onto the brakes there from about the 150-metre mark, coming all the way down from 165 miles an hour to a grand total of 53 miles an hour at the apex of turn 1. But as quickly as he goes right, he then goes left in second gear, and now going through the sweeping right at turn 3. This is all about essentially letting the car drift over to the left-hand side to open up turn 4. But as quickly as you get to the outside, you need to go onto the brakes. Oh, goodness me! And John Lubbock getting it wrong, I believe, and Daniels going straight into him, not seeing what was coming, and unfortunately both drivers there ended up in tears. Not the way they wanted it to go, and well, unfortunately it does seem as though the curse of riding on board with somebody continues. It seems to be the commentator's curse of qualifying. As we do see Luke Van Gertel making his way through it in the photo and livery machine there. Well, no prizes for guessing what that livery is in tribute to. And if you're stuck there wondering, that is to the mid-noughties to late noughties era McLaren Mercedes machines, typically piloted by none other than Fernando Alonso and Kimi Raikkonen, and then would go on to be piloted by Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton. We all know, of course, about the Spygate situation there, and also Hungarogate, and then subsequently it would be Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button, after which they would lose their sponsorship with Vodafone. And indeed they would change sponsors there and change engine suppliers after a time, and then be reborn from the era of Ross Dennis all the way to the era now of Zach Brown. But as we do see the Vodafone machine making his way on through, it's a good call to run that livery, is it, for Luke Van Gertel, the Dutchman right now currently 8.5 tenths off the pole time set in GT3 of Marley Joff, and right now Joff's still looking to be the man to beat, no doubt about it, by those 2 tenths or so from Charlie Devlin. But as Luke Van Gertel makes his way through turn number 12 in towards 13, can we get on board lap with one of our other drivers? I think we can. can. And we do see Kenneth Baird make his way down as we ride on board here with the number 31 Scotsman. And into the brains over turn of 1 he goes. Having to deal with a bit of GT4 traffic. And on that inside line, he's going to completely overcook the corner under braking. He does get back together, but that's not going to help him at all. But I think he's going to find himself caught behind another GT4. This is the worst situation you could ask for here for Baird as he comes into turn 4, but he makes it through this corner without finding a GPX SimSport car pointing the wrong way as he now makes his way flat out through the chicane turns 5 and 6. Completely compromised line there, jumps over the curb, but thankfully the setup will allow him to do so, but he backs off immediately in order to give himself some track position. He's invalidated his lap, and I think he's got to give some time back for butchering the curb, and now he makes his way back onto the road. So it's not working out there in regards to ride on board with one of our drivers, but I think that's the nature of the circuit and how condensed it is. 52 cars squeezed into a 2.43 mile space. You do the mathematics there, and what you find is that is only less than 0.05 miles per car doing the quick mathematics, more towards 0.04 miles, or in terms of how many meters that would be, for those of you who find those units easier to use, you would be looking at a grand total of around about, I would say, no more than what would be about 60 meters between each car if you spread them out all evenly. But as we do look to Kenneth Baird make his way on around, or Daniel Miller a little bit further back, kindly by the lowest placed of our drivers in the GT3 class. And a bit more work to do here as he follows the GT4 down the start finish straight. But what about the GT4s? We've had no luck trying to get a lap on board with a GT3, so let's jump on board here with Jack Wyborn, currently the second fastest GT4 as he makes his way through turns 1 and 2. And Rinko Jornowski has dethroned him for his provisional pole position, so now he's got to find another 2 attempts he wants to get back up there. Making his way through turn 3 into 4 right now. Lovely line there. And you can see really holding the apex curve in third gear before he makes his way in towards the kink at turn 5 and 6. The chicane hops over the second curve there and now making his way all the way down towards turn number 7. We say hello there to Tiago Reza or Bruma Gaming, no longer part of the 9 Pegasus Panther outfit, and recently joined Lewis Homewood Racing with Revolution 3 Racing, but cheering them on either way. Good to see you, Tiago, and very good on you cheering on your previous team. And Wyborn makes his way through turn number 8 into 9, a very tricky chicane there, right into left, medium speed, but you've got to keep over to left as you exit turn 9 to open up turn number 10 immediately. Now you can be a little bit more aggressive with the throttle here as you make your way briefly up onto the oval banking. Coming through turn number 11, you'll see it's the road course that joins the oval for a very brief moment, essentially joining onto the flat and then breaking his way down to turn number 12 as quick as that, as he now comes all the way through at 50 miles an hour on apex and brings the car to the right hand side to open up turn number 13. And it is going to be through the last couple of corners he goes. And with Jack Wyborn here heading towards line, what's it going to be? Flat out every step of the way, or is it? In fact, now has a small lift there initially, now builds up the throttle and heading down towards what will be potentially his final flying lap in qualifying. Well, this lap has not been an improvement for Wyborn. He did improve in the second sector, but he needs to find a lot more time than that at the moment, as he is being drafted along by a GT3 behind. But as he comes on through, well, perhaps one of the biggest shocks out there right now is the Austrian Christian Ablas. I would imagine 12th in the GT3 class in this qualifying session, but I suspect here he's not had the cleanest of runs in the session, so he's perhaps hoping that his final lap will be a happier one there. Lovely livery on the car for Gazix Racing, and I say it's a comical livery, not because we're laughing at it, because it does really give me inspiration for the superhero comics, the Marvel comics in particular there. But I do believe that's the art style they decided to go for a livery. They do have several different liveries, to be fair, the Gazix Racing team. They've probably got some of the most inventive liveries out there. That's not to dissuade any of our other livery creators who've done a lot of hard work to get their cars on the grid with their paint schemes. Indeed, all of them looking lovely. But Gazix Racing team, indeed, from one season to another, you will see they have some very different liveries on the car. But as we do see Ablasa make his way through turn number 12, keeping it nice and smooth. And well, he has not improved any of the sectors so far. It's going to be final sector or bust right now with 20 seconds left to go. As he makes his way towards the timeline, what's it going to be for number 98 driver? And the answer to that question is going to be as he trims the grass there on the exit. He's allowed to do that as long as he doesn't put all 4 wheels on it. And for Ablas, it's going to be a good final sector. Finds a bit of a draft there, and it moves him up to 8th place. So a 22.821 all in the final sector then. And he comes across line and goes on to one more lap. He's able to squeeze a final lap in where others are not able to. Daniel Miller right now, he'll be the first then to complete his qualifying session whilst he's on the road. And well, he'll be going no higher than 21st place there. And that's going to be in GT3, well, 1 minute 23.738. Virgilio Garcia heads towards the timing line as he does so. Can he find a bit more time out there? Well, here we go for Virgilio, and the answer is going to be, it doesn't seem to be for the American driver. He's going to have to start pretty much from the back of the GT3 class, but to be fair, people have started from the back before and made the way all the way through the field, so don't rule him out, although he's definitely given himself a hard job today if he wants to bring home a huge result for the team. as he makes his way on through. Rahal and Ross Young swapping places, I do believe, in the qualifying order. And right now, Rahal just falling back a little bit in terms of time. The two Scotsmen have been very close together all the way through qualifying, but Young has recently improved by the best part of 1.5 tenths to get ahead of Howe. That's the margin between the two of them now. And here he goes towards the line, Ross Young. What's it going to be this time? He is currently 14th in the number 28 GT3 McLaren. And as he crosses that line, the improvement, is it there or not? The answer is yes, it is. A 23.016, but it's only worth 100th. It doesn't take him any higher in terms of positions. But what about your GT4 drivers? Well, Kevin Smith comes towards the end. Meanwhile, Andy Dawson has just crossed the time in line. He jumps up to second in GT3 of a 22.075, only 800ths of a Joff's time. So therefore, finding some time right at the end and really getting it together. Are there any GT4s out there? No, there's not. So it does mean that Marinko Jordanowski has taken GT4 pole position as Virgilio Garcia gets it all sorts of wrong coming out to turn number 12, and Daniel Miller cools and calms the car down. So in the end, in terms of your classes, as many of our drivers do tow to the pit lane, including their Charlie Devlin, who was there a lot earlier, it's going to be Marley Joff and Andrew Dawson on the front row for GT3. Joff taking the first pole position of the season overall in the class, and then we do see starting on pole for GT4, Marinko Jordanowski, with Jack Wybon for close company there, 2 tenths behind, and a further half a tenth to none other than the machinery of Lewis Johnson and Brandon Dyer completing their top 4, although notably right now Jordanowski seems to be in a bit of a world of his own in terms of pace, but again, the race could have it very different by comparison as we do look to the blimp view, in fact the scenic view, because qualifying is complete, ladies and gentlemen, and now we do get ready to go racing. However, before we go racing, we do have our 5-minute warm-up period, and whilst our drivers do use it as an opportunity to get themselves warmed up, well, how about we fill in that time by talking a little bit about one of our other teams. Let's have another team profile. So, to talk a little bit about the team spotlight this time, it's QuakeMass Motorsport we're going to be talking about. And indeed, they've been on the grid with us here at SimRacing International, and as far as I remember, in the sim racing sphere for the best part of 7 to 8 years, and a much-loved team at that, no doubt about it. Now, what do you need to know about the team competing this season? Well, in GT3, it's Ben Bennyworth, and in GT4, it's Patrick 48. And a big thank you to Patrick for explaining how to pronounce his surname after the pre-season event, as I butchered it many a different way, but it is just 48 at the numbers together. And they are a professional race team, based in Europe. They do have a number of drivers on the continent as well as in the United Kingdom and in Northern Ireland, and this is going to be the first time that Patrick and Ben have raced together. Patrick is also new to the GT4 class, and therefore he has been supported by the team, and he is very new to iRacing as well, and Ben Bennyworth is a veteran by comparison, so he's been exchanging all the information he can. They're expecting to be competing mid-table in the team's championship and also in the individual drivers championships, and well, their best achievements in sim racing was in the GT3 championship hosted SimRacing International in season 7. That would have been the best part, I want to say now, of 2 years ago, if not, indeed it would be 2 years ago at this point, and they were leading the team's championship for the entirety of the season until the last race where they were pipped to the post sadly, and they were dethroned from taking home the crown. Now, what do we need to know a bit more about them? They were created in 2011, the team, by Max Spooner, an inspirational story of a young man's vision of turning a virtual hobby of simulator racing into reality, and under the ownership of Max, who was 17 at the time and has been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, he formed the team and self-funded it with his own personal savings. And after visiting the Autosport exhibition in January 2011, well, Max decided the Lacoste Championship, which the series run by the 750 Motor Club, would be a good starting point for his motorsport career. And within 3 months making the decision, Max bought, built and branded his car, and the QuakeMass Motorsport made its debut in 750 Motor Club Lacoste Championship at Brands Hatch. In 2017, Max made the decision to expand QuakeMass Motorsport into the professional world of sim racing esports, starting with competing in the British Virtual Touring Car Championship right up to 2019, when Max joined the esports team of British GT contender Team Brit. Of course, the team there really advocating for achievements of disabled drivers in the world of motorsport there, including the likes, of course, the very established GT4 driver of Bobby Trundley, who is world famous for his achievements in the Britcar Endurance Championship, amongst other series. Now, Max raced with the E-Team Brit, where he also took up the reins of team manager and started to build a team of all disabled drivers, competing against some of the biggest names in the real world of motorsport and esports competitions. The highlight for them being that Formula 1 World Champion Jenson Button joined the team in their self-run GT Challenge competition on R-Factor 2. In February of 2022, the team separated from Team Brit to continue its work as a totally independent operation, free to make its own choices, and in doing so revived the QuakeMass Motorsport name. And it was also at this point that Mike Tyler committed his future to the team. In 2024, the team welcomed University of Wales Trinity St David as a technical partner, and this has given the team a vital resource to help push the team forward and see success, including winning the Radical Esports Cup and the iRacing Indy 500 special event. And it was also that year where the team launched the Power Racers Academy. And indeed, a very accomplished team team there. Huge history to them. And the team owner, Max Spooner, the team principal, who you'll see in the YouTube chat, they're one of the friendliest drivers you could ever talk to. Andy Chell, no doubt about it. Their website at quatermassmotorsport.co.uk, and their sponsors, Max Talks, Colour by Numbers, the University of Wales St Trinity St David, or the UWTSD, Shahzad Motor Designs, Go for the Gap, and Caden Computers. And that's all you need to know about Quatermass Motorsport. We wish them, plus our profiled team earlier on, none other than what was sim coached by Glass Tech Racing, the best luck for this season. And do wish the best luck to all of our teams, and we'll definitely look to bring you some more team spotlight and profiles as the season goes on, ladies and gentlemen. But without further ado, we make our way back to circuit side, and as we do, we've not got long to go now before we do go green flag racing. We've only got a minute left on this practice warm-up session, and it's an opportunity for our drivers to take a bit of a comfort break, or alternatively make some tweaks to the setup of the car. Although you're probably sat there right now thinking, but Paul, you told me it was a fixed setup. It is a fixed setup. They are typically allowed to adjust the brake bias of the car. That's the one thing they can normally adjust. They can't adjust it in the GT4, however, I have been informed as of this week. It's only the GT3. The GT4 does not have a brake bias controller, much like the real-life GT4 McLaren 570S. Bit of an oddity that one, it must be said, but therefore only the GT3s can adjust that. But otherwise, they want to get themselves very comfortable to go green flag racing. And we very much look forward to getting the season formally underway. And, well, who exactly is going to be leading the way? I had to wait and see as we say hello to Craig Tillotson there, who says good luck to the Verano Esports guys. And also we do say hello to Katie Eames there. Big fan, of course, of Verano Esports. A big supporter of the team for the best part now of what is the last 6 years, if my memory serves me correctly. And Verano Esports, both racing on the simulator in real life, competing in the British Enduro Car Championship as of 2025. But as we see Charlie Devlin leave us in the dust there, well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to head to the grid. It's time to get the SimRacing International Transatlantic Trophy underway here at Indianapolis. And so, as all our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for what will be our season opening event. And as we can see, taking pole position, it is going to be none other than Marley Joff. That's oval and in GT3, the sim coach driver, followed up by Andy Dawson for sim coach by Glass Tech Racing. Then we'll see on row number 2 in the GT3 class, it'll be Charlie Devlin ahead of Matthew Croft, and on row number 3, behind the Future Class Racing Axis and Sport AB Designs drivers, it's Verano Esports with Flux Liveries, Russell Fowler, and none other than Christian Ablasser for Gazix Racing Team 1. Then starting 7th, Harvey Wheeler for Three-Wheeler Racing ahead of Joey Island for Altitude 3M Esports. Joey's a very quick driver, no doubt about it. He's just got to keep calm, cool and consistent if he wants to land a big score today. Then we do see Ashley Brooks, Axis in Sport with Simworks' livery design there for all of the Axis in Sport teams. He starts in 9th, with Luke Van Gertel completing the top 10 for MJK Sim Racing. 11th on this grid is Sean Braithwaite for Barbecue Bread Racing. The South African joined there by Ben Bennyworth for Quackmass Motorsport. Then we do have none other than Bill Daniels for Axis in Sport with Sim Coach, 13th ahead of Ross Young for Dexterous Motorsports. On row number 8, it's going to be none other than what will be Ray Howe, just ahead there of James Howarth, who's still getting to grips with the McLaren. The MJ Race Tech driver will be joined behind by Simcast Racing's Jordan Maymar. Lawrence Dapper starts in 18th for LS Racing, and then we do have completing the top 20 of the GT3s, none other than Kenneth Baird, and the Quench 9 Pegasus Panther Barry Crush driver will be in the company of John Lubrock for GPX Sport Onyx. Outside the top 20, we have Daniel Mellor, 21st, ahead of Max Dean, and then we will have none other than what be Scott Koshich there for GPX Sport Vertex, ahead of Brian Beardsworth for GPX Sport Xenon. And completing that GT3 starting order is going to be Virgilio Garcia, and none other than Ian Cable. Then we'll have the best part of a 5-second gap before we do get to your GT4s, and leading them away today, it's going to be none other than Marinko Jornowski for the Gazix Racing Team 1, which at Y1 in close company there for MRC at 491. Then, looking further behind, we're going to have starting 3rd in GT4. It's going to be Lewis Johnson there for Quench 9 Pegasus Panther, Blue Raspberry. He'll be blowing some raspberries at his rivals, none more so than Brandon Diapras, Altitude from Esports team Make a Gap. Then we'd have Robin Powney for Sim Coach just ahead of Adam Wilson Weir. A good qualifying points for him for Type 2 with Next Gen, starting 6th and looking to move for the podium. Joe Glass will line up in 7th place, just ahead of Noah Kelly for Ellis Racing. And we do have Ryan Stringer and Kevin Smith completing that top 10. Outside the top 10, in 11th, it's going to be Max Wheeler there for Three-Wheeler Racing ahead of Stephen Donnelly, the Simcast Racing driver, the Irishman who's known to be very formidable in the wet, but what can he do in the dry today? Then we'll see Brad Pickett starting 13th ahead of Alex Fretwell, followed by Robin Noel Brown for GPX Sport Xenon, and his sister team driver from Onyx, that'll be James Bostock, enjoying the GT4 for this season. Then we'll have 17th in the GT4s, Craig Hewlett for Axis Sport of AB Designs ahead of Patrick Borate, and then from the Czechia driver. It's going to be Chris Keenan, just ahead of Gavin Corby for GavMax Racing. Then we do have Patrick Heynen starting 21st for Barbecue Bread Racing ahead of Martin Kenyon. And behind the MJ Racetech driver starting 23rd in GT4, it's going to be James Pallett ahead of Andrew Fellows. And on the final row of the grid, it's MJK Sim Racing's Denny Ploger and none other than Steve Nix, the Luxembourgish driver STM Racing, who completes that starting order. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we're not too far away from going green flag racing here. And this formation lap right now gradually makes its way through the last couple of quarters, coming up towards what we turns 11-12 shortly. And Marley Joff right now with the two Sim Coach cars on the front row. One for Sim Coach by Glass Tip Racing, the other one for Sim Coach. But couldn't tell that based on liveries. You'll only be able to tell it by which one is going to stand on the top of the podium at the very end of the race. They're all absolutely itching to go. And as we do start to cut the music in the background, well, it does mean now we get ready to hear the sound of roaring engines for the first time this season, ladies and gentlemen, as Marley Joff will lead this field away very shortly. But a reminder, a 5 to 10 second gap between the GT3s and the GT4s. Renko Jornowski there brings the GT4 field around with Jack Wyborn for close company, but they are only allowed to go any time between the exit of the final corner and the start-finish line. But we look to the front then, and it will be to Marley Joff to get us underway for 60 minutes of racing action here today at Indianapolis for the start of the championship and the SRI American Cup. And it's lights and away we go for the season. It commences and Marley Joff leads the field down towards turn 1. The GT3s go. Virgilio Garcia having problems at the back of the field. But as they come down here into the braking zone, Charlie Devlin get the better start. There was Andrew Dawson on the inside. So Devlin already got an eye for the details. He's going to make that happen early. But meanwhile, further back, we see Ray Howe getting stuck in here and trying to squeeze his way around the outside of Ben Bennyworth. Makes that work out. But what about in the GT4 class? Well, here they go. They start their race. And Marinko Jornowski for the Gazix Racing Team 1. Brilliant start there. Jack Wyborn being made stuck in behind, but Brandon Dyer catching a sleeping Lewis Johnson there. And look at Adam Wilson Weir trying to make some progress. Is he going to be able to make it work there? Tries to go around the outside to inside, and the Type 2 and Next Gen driver fighting hard here with Lewis Johnson, and I think he's going to just about make this work out, but Johnson's going to come back at him in the quench machine, and the Blue Raspberry there definitely saying no you don't as they come through, and Robin Powney would like a look at that, but he's not going to have it. There's been some difficulty for a GT3. We'll come back to them shortly. And indeed, we see Harvey Wheeler there battling with Luke Van Goertel. So plenty of fighting going on between these two. And right now, Harvey Wheeler making some more progress. They're retaking at that 7th place at GT3 from Van Goertel just like that. Albeit it goes very wide. They're coming out of turn number 10. That's going to open the door up. Van Goertel being pushed along by Brooks. And actually, Brooks right now going up the inside here into the 90-degree right-hander. Daring move, and he'll make that count immediately. But he overcooks it on the brakes. Cole brakes at too much speed. He's got to get it back together. But he covers off there Russell Fowler. And Fowler right now being a bit brave there, battling with John Brayton back. And also Harvey Wheeler. And in the end, Harvey Wheeler squeezes his way on through of reigning UK Sim Racing GT3 champion going quick. Oh, that goes wrong there for Ashley Brooks. Very sideways out of turn 14. But he just about catches the car there, but steps aside to make sure he doesn't cause an obstruction. But as they come down towards the next lap right now, brilliant batting already. A couple of drives weaving side to side there to try and get some tyre temperature. I think that's none other than John Ludbrook struggling for tyre temperature at the moment, or alternatively Max Dean. And we'll see why a few drives go in towards turn 1 once again in GT3. Ashley Brooks keeping Howarth behind. But what about in GT4? What's happening there? And we see Max Wheeler right now putting pressure on Noah Kelly. Can he get his way past the fellow British driver? Here they go down the start for this straight. You can see Ray Howell's actually made his way into the pit lane already. Technical issue of the car or some damage, not quite sure. We'll get an answer to that when we can, and a replay or two where it's permissible as well. But all these drivers right now definitely pushing as much as they can. I think Howell has been involved in an open lap incident, but that's going to be Max Wheeler squeezing his way through. Oh, hold up a second. That's not where you park a car, Joe. That's Joe Class who's got around there, the sim coach by Class Tech Racing driver, and I think that he's hit a curb where he's been pushed around at turn number 1, because right now we'd not expect the number 10 driver to be that far down the order. He's now got to make haste and hay here, and he's had to fight his way all the way back up to the 7th place where he started GT4. He's down to 17th, and we'll find out what happened to him very shortly indeed. Denny Ploger, all towards the back of the field right now. The lime green MJK Sim Racing machine. You could always tell an MJK Sim Racing car. They've got some of the brightest liveries out there, and that's not to be rude about them because they make sure they get some camera time. Oh, and hold up. Who's those gone wrong? That's Martin Kenyon, and the MJ Racetech driver going around there, and that McLaren's definitely bitten him on the backside, it would seem. Oh, 30 a curb sent him skywards as Craig Hewlett's into the pit lane with a meatball flag as well, I'm hearing by ear. But coming back to GT3, you think this was the formation lap at high speed with the weather going too wide. Not quite there. Daniel Mellor just about squeezing ahead of Ross Young. As they come out turn 14, down the start finish straight they go once again. And right now, Ross Young thinking about a move here. They all fan out. Jordan Maymar as well, looking the rear left. He's trying to look for a move for Supercars Racing UK. Can he find it? The answer is no. Mellar cues them up. And John Lupert there goes around the outside for GPX's Onyx. Lovely move from him. And well, gets that move done just like that. But Ross Young says, no, you don't. I haven't given up yet. And that's the thing about these opening four corners. You go for a right into a left, into a pair of right-handers. And therefore the battle can rage all the way in towards the turn 5-6 chicane where somebody's got to back off, but there was a bit of a touch there between Lubbock and Young, and Ross Young has to collect the car together. He was biffed forward, however, and as a result, it does mean that he's picked up a slowdown penalty. Not that he will agree to that, and he'll feel as though he was forced to pick it up there for a small tap for John Lubbock. No malice meant, but what this does, it brings James Howarth right into the midst of it all, and the monster machine for MJ Racetech. Well, right now, he gets his claws out there, but even he's got to trip his claws every so often, as he wasn't going to be able to make the move there on both Maymar and Lubbock. Scott Kostrich, meanwhile, battling side by side here with Max D. Brilliant battle between these two, and one team. What for you, his visor right now with Kostrich, but it won't be a ski mask. He'll be getting his head and helmet down. But the GPX is what Vertex try and making his way up towards turn 12. That is side by side with Dean still. Max Dean not giving up here, but he'll have to give up at some point because Kostrich may shut the door on him. In fact, he doesn't, and Dean here still on the inside. Oh, there's contact between the two of them. It did look as though Kostrich perhaps tried to close the door, and Max Dean was still there. I don't think he expected that Dean was going to continue to fight, but he did so. But meanwhile, three wide as they come out to turn number 14. That's Ross Young over back at Kenneth Baird, and well behind them is Brian Beardsworth trying to get involved. Beardsworth substituting for Gareth Newton, who's tuning in the YouTube chat and says good luck to GPX's Brian. Don't scratch my car. Well, I get the feeling right now that Brian Beardsworth, he may not get any scratches at the moment, but he's definitely making sure to get into the thick of it here. And well, I think there will be some scratches eventually, unfortunately, for you, Gareth. But I'm sure they'll buff out. Indeed, James, with infinite supply of money in the team principal role, will be able to get those repaired quite quickly. I don't think he's got infinite supply of money, to be fair, ladies and gents, but we've never seen James not on his yacht either. That's the running joke in the community. Oh, that's going a bit deep there for Kenneth Baird. 2-1 he goes through the chicane. Oh, and it goes wrong for Ross Young. Gets clipped over the curb, and Young in the end get collected with Brian Beardsworth. Beardsworth's able to carry on there. Now, did Ross Young hit the curb and lose it, or was there contact with Beardsworth? It happened so quickly, we can't quite tell you from that, but we will get replay when we can. But as the drivers settle in now, we are the best part of 5 minutes into this 60-minute race. There's still a long way to go, but we will be getting some replays very shortly of the early instance in this one. Jack Wyville attacking Brandon Dyer, but Brandon Dyer definitely trying to make a bit of a crusade out of this, as back in time we go, and in particular we'll catch up with what happened to Ray Howe right at the start. So this was Ray Howe in the GT3 class, making his way too wide into the chicane, but backed off, hopped over the curb as he did so, tried to get the power down, but the Scotsman in the end, cold tyres and a very light end of the car, light rear end I should say, because of the curb, that did not combine well, and that's what sent him to the barrier. Then we had this for Adam Wilson-Weir a little bit later on. This was in GT4 as he made his way through. That smoke was from Ray Howe going sideways, and Wilson-Weir, of course, with Lewis Johnson. The two of them got caught on each other, they got caught again, and we didn't quite catch it at the time. Lewis Johnson being sent spinning around, and well, exactly what happened to him here. He ended up being, oh goodness me, he got parked in the middle of the road. He had to hold his brakes there, and the whole field came barreling past him, and not everyone was able to survive that. This is what it looked like from an alternative camera angle that was watching at the time, and well, there was a bit of smoke from Ray Howe's discretion, but here we see the British driver getting in contact there with Wilson-Weir on the grass, gets the brakes on, 3 wide, they're just managed to pass him in the nick of time, and unfortunately there, another driver getting it very wrong. That, I believe, was none other than, I want to say it was Craig Hewlett having a big sideways moment, and unfortunately for Craig, the car decided it didn't want to go straight at that point of the day. This is what it looked like on board from Hewlett's perspective. The Axis Sport maybe design driver, and will make his way through the chicane, hit the curb, and at this point he's suddenly going to, I think, to tap the rear there of the car in front of him, and that's what sent him around, unless I'm mistaken, unless he's slightly been pranged there by Lewis Johnson's stricken machine, which is highly possible, although don't quote us on that. Then we had this, of course, on lap number 2. This was a Joe Glass, and unfortunately for Joe, things went a bit wrong, but how exactly did they go wrong? Well, the answer was, at turn 1 he went, onto the brakes, he was by himself, and in the end just carried a bit too much speed through the corner, and the rear end just did not want to settle down. Had to pull it off the road, did so very quickly there, and great awareness and great reactions with Joe Glass, no doubt about it. James Howarth, of course, having some difficulty in lap number 2 as well. This was Howarth making his way through for MJ Racetech, and well, I think this is where in the end he was attacked quite viciously under braking by Daniel Miller, and it forced him a bit wide. He had to take some grass, and that's what caused him to go wider and wider and drop down the place. Daniel Miller definitely getting his nose into the place, and I think there that was not quite a push to pass, but it was definitely one of those lunges which when it works it looks great, but when it's not working out quite, it doesn't look quite great, and that's I think what James Howarth would argue there. It was a lunge and perhaps not 100% on. but meanwhile that beat the stewards most likely. Then we had all the battling that followed it, including what was none other than a bit of getting stuck into the mix for Jordan Maymar, who in the end lost out. We did catch that battle, but Martin Kenyon, meanwhile, it wasn't all rose-tinted glasses for the GT4 driver, either teammates Howarth, and where one goes wrong, the other followed shortly. He took too much curb there at turn number 6. Car went very sideways. In the end, on the grass, he really was a passenger. And we just had this for Patrick 4-8 for Quatermaster Motorsport on lap number 4 in the GT4 class. He was chasing Kevin Smith at the time, down towards turn 7. Well, looked to go on the brakes here, went for the move. So what went wrong for the Czechia driver? And the answer was Smith turned, and well, 4-8 was there. I think you would argue he had the right to an overlap, but Smith would argue he didn't have the right to an overlap, and that's what led to the contact between the two. And Adam Wilson, where for the second time today, ended up being spun around, albeit that was slightly off camera there, but we must make our way back to live racing, ladies and gentlemen, because there's plenty more action to come. Speaking of which, oh, hold up a second, somebody going very slowly there down the start for this straight. Who on earth is that? Well, whoever it was, I think that is Jean Breiter back there, who got caught up behind a GT4 that's not going quite quickly, and I'm not quite sure whose GT4 that is. Part of me says that is Martin Kenyon's car, and I get the feeling it is. Yes, it is. So Martin Kenyon, I think, has had a bit of a moment, and unfortunately, our barbecue red racing South African GT3 driver getting caught up in the worst possible moment behind it. And right now, making his way around the outside there is your GT3 from Rado Esports with Flux Deliveries of Russell Fowler, the motorcycle riding driver, and I say that as a race driver he is as well in many a championship series, and of course a firm favourite in the NXTCC when he did make his debut all those many years ago in the Fuji round. That was all the way back in round number 6, where he absolutely left everyone, including myself in the commentary booth at the time, with our jaws dropped. But he's a quick GT3 driver as well, it would seem, albeit he's got to make some work up here from 18th place. As he tries to do so, Ashley Brooks finds himself under pressure from Daniel Mellar as they fight over 12th place at the moment. Right now the two Britons still together here with John Breiterback trying to follow, but Breiterback, of course, being forced down the order, Harris essentially let places go because he got caught up behind the GT4 that wasn't going as quickly as he would have liked. That's always the hard part now, so they're definitely starting to weave their way through the GT4 field, and it's only going to make things tougher and tougher here for the drivers as 10 minutes is completed. But as all the drivers continue to roar the way on through, we'll right now make the way past the Quatermaster Motorsport machine of Patrick 4-8 there, and well, he'll tuck in, he'll pick up a bit of a distance toe, but you'll notice how close these cars are on pace even on the straight. Well, it's only around about a 2 to 3 mile an hour difference initially, as Brooks has to go defensive here as much as humanly possible. Oh, and that's car off the road there. That's Chris Keenan taking the chip for a spin. Keenan's got it very rolled there, and unfortunately he's going to get some time back with how deep he's got into the corner. Meanwhile, we come back to the GT4 class, battling on the road, and this is Jack Wyborn chasing after Brandon Dyer. Marinko Jornowski has left them by 3.8 seconds, or thereabouts, and Wyborn and Dyer right now enjoying an absolutely brilliant battle between them, no doubt about it, as they make the way through the next set of quarters. Going for the right into left here, and Wyborn right now, as much as he's glued to the back of Brandon Dyer's car, he would ideally like to clear it, but it's not going to be easy. Now, in regards to the fuel tanks, given the fact we have 60% fuel for the GT3s and 70% for the GT4s a little bit more thirsty on fuel by comparison, and therefore that's why we do have to have the slightly different fuel tanks. We are expecting the pit window to be a relatively wide one, approximately 20 minutes. It is not a fixed window, we should point out. If you can go a longer distance on a fuel tank, you are more than welcome to go. There are no mandatory pit stop requirements other than do what you need to do to get to the end of the race, which typically means put some fuel in the car. But understandably, tyre changes will come after fuel's put in, so I suspect, and we indeed suspect down in the what is the analysis room, that for these races at least you will see all the drivers finish the race on the tyres they start on, and it will be just put the fuel in the car. So some tyre management could be valuable for later in the race, and for the 90-minute races that's where it will really become a bigger factor. Jack Wyborn there definitely looking the more composed of himself and Brandon Dyer over the curbs, and here he goes for a potential move down the middle stretch into towards turn number 7 all the way to the inside here, and Wyborn right now does squeeze a nose ahead. Brandon Dyer gives him all the room in the end and says to him, I'll take the race alive, thank you very much. And Wyborn now finds himself under pressure, but it's a right-hander into a left-hander now, so can he hold it all the way around the outside to get the inside of turn number 10? Yes, he can. Brandon Dyer in the end tried to make it work out, but it hasn't worked out, and so he falls back. As meanwhile, there's Kevin Smith making his way through, but Alex Fretwell's had a bit of a moment, and the Quench 9PP very crushed driver will definitely exceed his aspirations to take a top 5 so far. Crushed, but you have to try and bounce back when he can, as more GT3s now interdict to weave the way through. But meanwhile, Brandon Dyer has found his way back ahead of Jack Wyborn, only moments after we've left them. So these two continue to push each other very hard, and right now it's back and forth between them, no doubt about it. But how did Brandon take the place back, I hear many of you wondering, and here's a quick replay to explain. So this was as we did leave them, so they were coming through turn number 10 in towards 11, and Dyer getting the overspeed there to the inside of the sharp 90-degree corner. And the thing is, when you're on the inside of this corner, you really have got the move done, but particularly if you get a nose ahead, although Dyer a bit cheeky there. Now, he would argue that the way he broke a little bit too late, but what they did, they actually put Jack Wyber into a position of, if he wanted to hold the position, he couldn't, he would have been forced off the road. So Jack did back off there. A bit of a cheeky moment there for Brandon Dyer. I don't think it was malicious, to be fair. I think he honestly had run a bit deep in the braking zone, but Jack Wyberwood will raise an eyebrow there and go, okay, I see what's going on there. I'll be mindful of that. You have a habit of going a bit later on the brakes than you would like at turn number 12. But it hasn't stopped the two of them from fighting each other as we come back to them live now. This is no replay. And will they touch wing mirrors as they make their way to the brakes? And right now, the GT3 coming up behind them. Won't be too happy. That's Charlie Devlin who catches up to them, and he's going to go round the outside. It's free wide for a brief moment through the chicane, and Charlie Devlin squeezes well through, and now here comes Andy Dawson as well, but he touches Wyber on the rear bumper. He touched him, I should say, and well, those who touched by Andrew Dawson typically go a bit faster for his coaching, but unfortunately not Jack Wyber. He's gone spinning around and gone slower instead. And the sim coach by Glass Tip Racing driver in the end, well, no man is meant there, but definitely a bit of a moment for him as Harvey Wheeler now makes his way past the recovering Jack Wyber. Brandon Dyer will breathe a big sigh of relief of all this, understandably, but Harvey Wheeler now finds himself attacking Christian Ablas as best he can. And well, the man who runs the mid-use helmet in relation to the Pixar animation, what was originally part of the Despicable Me franchise, and then became its own franchise set of movies, well, Harvey Wheeler right now will definitely be feeling as though everyone else has been despicable towards him, as he got the worst draw of that one, given the fact he got caught behind the GT4, the number 67 GT4 there, and Christian Ablas was able to open a bit of a gap. That was Noah Kelly, the GT4, who just put himself in the middle of the road and said, I'll just let you two figure your way around me, thank you very much, which is exactly what a GT4 is expected to do. But as we do see there, Harvey Wheeler continued to give pursuit. Right now, finding himself close, but the clock starts to make the move on Ablas. Ablas is struggling a little bit at the moment for pace as we look back for the rear of the Austrians car for Gazix Racing Team 1. And I wonder if Ablas right now is focusing on a fuel saving and some tyre management as well, rather than pushing on too hard. We're not expecting any rain here today, we should clarify as well. This is a dry round. We do have some mixed weather conditions around, as you saw in the calendar earlier on in today's programme. But right now, number 98 driver here, definitely not showing the pace he had right at the start. As he goes a bit deep there, gets caught behind the GT4, and that's none other than the machinery of Ryan Stringer. And in the end, unfortunately, catching Ryan Stringer at the worst possible moment, and that does enable Wheeler to make his way past. So Harvey Wheeler now up into 6th place in GT3. He'll be very happy with that. Scott Kostic, meanwhile, still following the footsteps there of Max Dean. Max Dean, I can tell you one thing, you may have started 22nd in GT3, but that's not where you expected to start. I can tell you that, given the pace he's shown for Gav Max Racing. He's definitely one of those drivers. If he can get on top of his one-lap qualifying pace, he will be pushing towards top 15s very soon, because he's got so much gumption in him. We've seen it in the GT3 Championship, we've seen it in the GTE Championship, and we're seeing it here today. He just seems to, under race conditions, really start to come alive. It's almost as if it's a different person in the car. But Scott Kostic right now will definitely try to avert the Jekyll and Hyde situation he's battling with, and instead make his way through in the 101, and will do so with aplomb as he moves up to 18th there. Smooth move into turn number 12, and even Max Dean, I think, will be amazed at that move. It was absolutely buttery smooth, textbook, you could say. As Kenneth Baird right now in one of the Quench 9PP machines, looking to battle with one of the other flavours out there, or one City Team cars, and that's battling with Virgilio Garcia. And right now he's the Cherry Lime car, and well, not the biggest fan of limes to be fair, although I do drink Sprite every so often. In fact, 7-Up, I should say. 7-Up being the lime edition, Sprite being the lemonade edition. And as they make their way down the start finish straight right now, lime or raspberries or lemons. Well, right now he's definitely not making a melon out of this one, as he finds himself at a very busy bit of road as they roar the way down to the braking zone. And as they do, well, Kenneth Baird goes all up the inside there as they weave their way amongst the GT4s, and it is pandemonium at turn number 1, but somehow they all survive it until they don't. And that's Lewis Johnson being turned around. I don't believe Lewis's luck. The Quench 9 Pegasus Panther Blue Raspberry driver right now, I can tell you one thing, he has been absolutely crushed like the raspberries used to make the drink, because he brings himself back up to speed. Definitely all the fizz and pop from his race has completely flattened out there, dropping all the way from 3rd to 21st, and he's had probably the worst luck of anybody in the GT4 class. But that's why we do have a grand total of 10 rounds, although we should clarify, no drop scores for this season, so therefore every round counts. So that's what a driver's got to be concerned about. As we do say hello to Phillips_91 and also Dom Yen in the YouTube chat there. Dom Yen cheering on Patrick48, and Phillips cheering on none other than Marley Joff. Now we will come back to Marley very shortly, although we're focusing on the action on the road at the moment. Robin Perronier finding it. He's going to be in the field of some action shortly as Ryan Stringer getting a bit closer to him here for third place potentially. They're going to come into the braking zone. They do have the barbecue bread racing GT3 of Jean Bretterback getting closer. And now, if you're Ryan Stringer, what do you do in this situation? Well, you've got to be prepared perhaps. You have a GT3 try to make its way haphazardly up your inside. There it goes. And let be a problem for Perronier. And it almost is, to be fair. Stringer finds himself in the end, still having to deal with Jean Bretterback's GT3 until he doesn't. And in fact, Bretterback there decides to step aside, takes the slow down, and this gives Stringer confidence because Perronier expected that they were going too wide. So Ryan Stringer being tactical about this, smart driving from Ryan, and the future class racing driver moves up into third place in GT4, but Perronier will come back at him. Now, Robin, we like to typically refer to this man as the fuel saving master because he's the driver who typically, if everybody else can only do, say, 20 laps of the car at a circuit, he'll find a way to do at least 21, if not 22. Many of you may remember, of course, the Thursday GT3 Championship, where it is Corvette, which we must say we really miss seeing at Perronier racing a Corvette. He has switched cars more recently, where he's typically been able to find a way to get at least 2-3 more laps out of the car compared to everybody else out there. But here today in a McLaren machine on the GT4, enjoy the back and forth for Ryan Stringer. But is this going to be a day today where he once again impresses with strategy, or is it going to come down to on-circuit pace? That's Gavin Corby looking at the inside of James Bostock. I think that's Bostock trying to make a move, in fact, for what will be at 16th place in GT4. He does so there. Bostock sweeps around the outside, and Corby being left hung dry there as Patrick Foray closes it back up. And Patrick really rapid at the moment. He's not let the incident earlier on hold him back, I can tell you that. And number 48 driver lapping approximately 2 seconds quicker than Bostock and Corby on his previous lap. He's definitely going to be on the back of them by the end of this one and on to next. But meanwhile, what's happened to Brian Beardsworth? And well, the GPX Esports Xenon drive had a bit of a moment. That's at turn 12. Cars got around, and well, we need to make our way around to a couple of incidents, including the follow-up to happen to Lewis Johnson. So Lewis Johnson finds himself in the thick of it all with GT3s covered the way through, caught up behind while the Quench GT3s, and unfortunately the tiniest of touches there, and I believe that may have been the car there of, I want to say, James Bostock in that instant, although don't quote me on that, and unfortunately Lewis Johnson being turned around there. Bit of a moment, I'm sure they'll talk about it afterwards, and then we did have this of Brian Beardsworth only months ago, and well, poor old Brian, and understanding Gareth Newton right now is definitely going to be breathing a big, deep breath here, thinking what's he done to the car this time, and what Brian's done is he's just carried too much speed to turn 12 and the rear has slightly let go. With the 50 kilograms less weight in the car, I mean that rear axle is even more aggressive in how it comes around. But let's go back to your live racing because we've got some action to talk about. But we also need to talk about your race leader over on in GT3. It's Marley Joff, the sim coach driver who right now, having started in pole position, has opened up a 5-second gap. The man who's trying to follow him is Charlie Devlin, the future class racing driver, who is being kept honest by Andrew Dawson. Dawson at last lap was a 10th quicker. You can see Dawson in the rear of the picture in the SimCoach Glass Tech Racing GT3 McLaren. And right now, well, the number 17 driver here, he's definitely very eager to make his progress back up towards Devlin if he can. The problem is they're now finding those GT4s. It's where they come. Do they come favourably? Do they come unfavourably? And that's the thing over a race. Typically, the law of averages will say that for every car that you pass, and it's an easy pass to make your way through, the next one will be a bit more difficult by comparison. It all typically balances out, although some drivers have worse luck than others. Andrew Dawson definitely has the worst luck of everybody here as he makes way to turn 13 and 14, having to segue his way between the car there of none other than James Pallett and then Lewis Johnson. I think he'll make his way around. Lewis Johnson uses downforce there to make sure he doesn't get caught. As we look to James Pallett's Quench 9 Pegasus Panther Cherry Lime car as he makes his way on down there, and also racing as a privateer previously under the JP15 moniker. And good to see James on the grid once again, the Jersey-based driver there, and we're coming down into the braking zone, albeit with Lewis Johnson trying to run away as quickly as he can. But we've got a bit of difficulty for Kevin Smith from what we're hearing in my ear. Here is Kevin Smith right now. And, well, some would say you can't park there, sir, but he's got to park there. He's trying to figure out which way. Oh, no, and that's gone wrong. More cars coming to the scene. It's Kevin Smith right now, not sure what to do. And understandably, well, a lot of cars getting caught up there. And suddenly Lewis Johnson trying to squeeze his way through it all. And, well, Kevin Smith's had to tow to the pit lane. I think there will be some other cars to do so shortly. They will have to take a lot of evasive action. And Lewis Johnson has a black flag now. That will be 16 instant points plus. That's going to be a drive-through penalty there for contacts and off tracks. But I think the majority has come from contact with other cars, whether they're his fault or not. Either way, unfortunately, iRacing does not discriminate, and it simply says, no, you picked up the instant points, now you've got to go serve that penalty. But also, hold the phone, is that Andy Dawson's car missed its front bumper? I think it is. It is. Dawson got caught up in all that, and for Dawson, this is going to send him all the way down the order. He was the only GT3 to really get caught up in that whole situation, but how did we get there in the first place? Well, here we go for a trip back in time to find out. Now, I do believe it all begins with Steve Nicks having a bit of a moment coming through to the 13. In fact, this is a bit earlier on, so Steve in the end being caught up in a bit of a situation. Unfortunately, getting collected there on a GT3 that's trying to make its way through. But in parallel, there was this for Kevin Smith. So, Smith in a battle there with Type 2 and Next Gen Racing Adam Wilson-Weir as he made his way out towards turns 3 and 4, went for the dive of the brakes. A bit aggressive into the braking zone, it must be said, for Kevin, but I think there might have been a bit more context to that. Unfortunately, got caught there by Brian Beardsworth's car, so that's how it all starts. And then we look to the blimp camera. This gives you the best view. Now, he's parked in the middle of the road because he's seen his relative cars are coming. He is not going to move the car at this point. The rules say, if you're in this situation, hold your brakes. Everyone needs to work their way around you. Patrick 48 goes into the front end of him, and that causes a domino effect. And in the process, also Andy Dawson then being caught up. And this is what it looked like from Andy Dawson's perspective as Dawson made his way through. You can see there, Charlie Devlin get caught in Patrick 48's car. So I think that's why Patrick couldn't take evasive action in. He was so focused on the GT3, and Dawson unfortunately coming off the worst of it all. So that's why Charlie Devlin didn't get out without a few scratches on his car, but it really was unfortunately for Andy Dawson a nightmare moment. As the drivers make their way through, the Van Gertel for MJK Sim Racing that carried on there. And, well, he picks up a place that Dawson has relinquished, of course. And I do see a few of you give you comments there asking why Kevin Smith didn't tow earlier. And understanding at the time, I think he thought they would be able to get the car going again. And we should be clear that unless we are at a particular circuit, say Bathurst, and the incident's occurred over the mountain, we don't enforce mandatory tow zones at SimRacing International. But the flip is true as well. The flip side of it is the incident will be reviewed. That will be a question that is asked about the towing. And we do have a very strict stewarding system in place, particularly with this being a Motorsport UK Esports approved championship. And every driver involved in that incident will be required to give their evidence and their version of what happened, essentially, including Kevin, and it'll come down to the stewards. Now, we're not going to blame Kevin, we're not going to blame anybody for that one. That's the stewards to figure out who to point the finger at and throw the book at. And I do believe the stewarding book now, spanning the best part of 2.5 kilograms worth of paper, it is not a light book. It's not a novel at the moment. It's got more chapters than all the Harry Potter novels put together. But right now, how about this for a story? Because that's actually Brooks looking up the inside of Christian Ablasser. He's been waiting for this for some time, and he finally makes it happen. And as he goes up the inside there, Ben Bennyworth queues up behind, and the Quatermass Motorsport driver now wants a piece of this as well. Goes all in, and as he does so, can he get the move done? The answer, I think, is going to be yes. And, well, Ben Bennyworth moves onwards, as meanwhile, noticing the timing tower for GT3s, Marley Joff is dropping down the order. Surely that's not a technical retirement for Marley Joff, because if so, that is going to open up the lead of GT3 massively. And, well, he is slipping down the order. If Joff's out of this race, that's going to be heartbreaking, no doubt about it, given he was comfortably leading. So we'll wait and see if we're going to get Joff back, but I think Joff's had to retire due to a technical issue of some description, and his race has come to a halt, which will mean that this man becomes your GT3 leader, Sonny. Charlie Devlin, as he does have a GT3 in front of him, going very sideways there, coming out of the final corner. That's going to be the machinery there, I believe, of none other than your GT3 driver of Brian Beardsworth. In fact, that's not Brian Beardsworth there. In fact, that's Andy Dawson there. I should correct myself. Coming on through. And Charlie Devlin right now puts a lap on the man he was previously battling. And right now as well, we'll find out he is class and overall leader. But as we come back to those who brushed the wall, a big brush of the wall there for the GT4 of none other than the Braterback family. As they go down, was that Braterback car? In fact, no, I don't think it was. But as they come through, it was a barbecue bread racing machine. I can tell you that. I think that was Patrick Heenan. And Ben Bennyworth trying to still look for this move here on Ashley Brooks. He's definitely getting very defensive and very keen to make sure that no move is potentially made. As all these drivers continue to push onwards, Christian Ablasser right now still watching, but I think his game is going to be strategy first and foremost, rather than on-track action. He's playing the bigger picture here, trying to play chess, but everyone else is playing high-speed checkers. Let's see if that's the reality. As Jordan Maymar continues to close on to Bill Daniels, and right now the Briton trying to break the hearts of American fans at the home circuit for Daniels as they come in towards the left into right. But it's not working out at the moment. He's being made to wait a little bit longer, but Jordan definitely enjoying the racing out there for Simcast Racing as he heads down towards turn number 7, and we do ride on board for a little bit. Going down to that braking zone here. The fact that we're running more powerful cars and lighter cars as well, decided to do just a break away from the norm of the standard GT3 and GT4 cars, make them a little bit more powerful, just up-tune them slightly, and therefore make these cars just a little bit more challenging to drive. But SimCoach, of course, provided setups where you can extract a lot of pace out the car by default for a rookie racer all the way through to an esports professional. Well, here, it's Patrick 48 with the number 48 car. I get the feeling that's poetic there, and it's not a coincidence. And right now, Jordan Maymar makes one through there, and Patrick just making sure not to be a nuisance, but to be fair, he hasn't been one all the way through today. But we look to Joe Glass, meanwhile, who finds that's not going to be easy viewing for him, because he's going to have to deal with none other than what will be Andy Dawson, who segues his way between the two of them. And he's been coached by Glass Racing driver. Well, that is his teammate to make his way past, I believe, or is it? As Marley Joffrey's continued to drop down the field. So Joff is not in the car. He's back in the pit lane, I believe, with technical issues. So Joff's race has come to an abrupt halt. But these drivers make the way through. With still more action to come between them, no doubt about it. And we'll just check it in with regards to race control. No update on Marley Joff's situation at the moment. If anybody does know, feel free to pop it in the YouTube chat. But we believe that essentially it's the equivalent of the engine giving up in the car, or in this instance, a technical failure. And, well, as we do see Phillips there saying, is that James Howarth in a McLaren GT3? That man hates the McLaren. Indeed, it is. Your eyes do not deceive you, good sir. As our eyes do not deceive us here. Joe Glass getting very close to the back of Stephen Donnelly and looking for that potential move. And can he make it happen? No, not quite at the moment. And unfortunately, there, Ashley Brooks coming through, and that's going to reset the battle between them as they head onwards. But Glass still trying to make some ground as we do look a bit further up the road to the man that many are talking about in the YouTube chat, James Howarth. Indeed, when we caught up with him after the pre-season event, saying about the fact he's really out of his comfort zone and very much looking forward to getting back in his Mustang for our Thursday GT3 Championship. And, well, the results showed the day after, given the fact he was absolutely reborn in his Ford Mustang. His absolutely aggressive 5-litre V8, albeit, of course, these McLaren 720S Evo GT3s, they have their own V8 engine in them, a very powerful engine, that twin turbo system based on a system conceived by Nissan, the Japanese manufacturer. With this car powered by an M840T 4-litre twin turbo V8 engine. That's how you do get the designation of M840T. In fact, it's essentially a V8 engine, that's the 8, and then 4 litres, and T, the turbo, and it all adds up together. And this car, sporting the best part of around about 600 horsepower with the way we've got it set up. Meanwhile, your GT4s, none other than what is, we'll come to that shortly, as we are seeing Gio Garcia there being paced by Andy Dawson. And Dawson right now not hanging around as he looks to try and recover, as we have confirmation Joff is definitely out of the race. The Quenchline Pegasus Panther Cherry Lion driver makes his way on past Robin Powney there, and Powney on exhibition for a McLaren 570S GT4, this being McLaren's original GT4 racing car, as built by them to go racing in the GT4 class, and it built in 2016, powered by a 3.8 litre twin turbo V8 engine, and that is the M838TE engine in the back of that car, or the middle back of the car, because it's mid-engine rear drive, much like its GT3 counterpart, and more recently now being replaced by the McLaren Artura. Both of them running a carbon fibre chassis out there, and two very impressive cars being raced all the way into the current day of motorsport. But as Robin Powney carries on, meanwhile we come back to Stephen Donnelly, and a bit too late on the brakes there for Stephen Donnelly, taps Noah Kelly on the back, and Joe Glass says, well, don't mind if I do, thank you, Stephen. And he's going to try and go around the outside here at turn number 23, this being the battle for 7th place at GT4, but Donnelly squeezes Glass, and this is getting a little bit personal now as they go 3 wide, and in the moment, well, that GT3 siphoning its way out the inside, not helping Glass and Donnelly at all. I don't think they will have appreciated that whatsoever, but that's the way it's worked out between them. And who was that who found his way charges way out the inside? The answer to that question is, I believe that was Lorenz de Dapper. It was indeed the Ellis Racer driver. They had a place to go. He had a bus to catch, it would seem. But I get the feeling he'll also be catching the tickets to the stewards room at that rate, because definitely a feature for Joe Glass. He would argue to Stephen, I was pushed into you by the sudden appearance of a Belgian GT3 driver. Well, we'll have to see what they've got to say. But the Ellis Racer driver right now carrying on as he chases after Luke Van Goertel. And Ashley Brooks, meanwhile, has picked up a slowdown for track limits. I suspect that's been at turns 5 and 6. And he's going to burn that before it gets upgraded into a time penalty. It will be a trip to the pit lane. In fact, that time penalty, it's going to be a costly one of 40 seconds. It's a very long pit lane here, of course. You spend an eternity on the limiter making your way down the Indianapolis pit lane. Something you do not want to do. Ashley Brooks makes his way around the outside there, one of our GT4 drivers, and I think we've just seen somebody fly over to the pit lane. Now, who was that who's made the way into the pits? It's the Grandmaster Motorsport machine of Ben Bennyworth. So Bennyworth comes in, relinquishing 8th place in GT3 to Christian Ablasser, but he's decided to take that pit stop with 29 minutes left on the clock. Majority of the field have yet to pit, as you pointed out. Andrew Dawson, of course, being the exception, he was forced to pit with the damage to the front end of the car after the multi-car incident with Kevin Smith's machine parked up at turns 3 into 4. And right now, Andrew Dawson here definitely on a bit of an offset strategy to see how far he can recover. But otherwise, in GT3, nobody pitting so far. And meanwhile, in GT4, we've had a couple of pit stops to play out, including Patrick Heenan, the South African for Barbecue Bread Racing. He's made his way in. So has James Bostock on lap number 16. Fellows on lap 15 as well. And Patrick Freight leaves the pit lane now as he heads on down. He has changed all 4 tyres in the pit lane, as I understand it. So the Quaintmas Motorsport driver not feeling comfortable on the original set of tyres and building up his experience in the car. And I think that's going to be one of the learning experiences, because that tyre change has cost him an extra 24 seconds in the pit compared to everybody else. Now, he has the freshest tyres of all of those who pitted, but is that going to help him make up the distance over 28 minutes in the final lap of racing? We'll have to see. The 90-minute races, it may do, but here today in the 60-minute race, we think the theory is it may not do. More pit stops playing out. Jean Brains are back in. And the Barbecue Bread Racing driver makes one down, but there goes Andy Dawson on past. So Dawson right now flying for SimCoach by Glasstep Racing. And, well, we can see there John Braithwaite just coming out. And side-by-side there with Brian Beardsworth, who is a lap down. So, therefore, Beardsworth will have to let that go. As meanwhile, Brandon Dyer and Ryan Stringer, they're still fighting over second in GT4. So the battles have calmed down to a degree, although a lot are happening in the pit lane. Joey Ireland, Matthew Croft, Ashley Brooks, Daniel Miller and Bill Daniels all in from GT3. And I suspect the GT4s will just go that little bit longer before they all start to pile into the pit lane. But this battle absolutely on the limit. Oh, that's very close to being on the limit there with regards to none other than I think that's Lawrence Dadapa in the makes about the inside, while the Quench 9PP machines, and while he segues his way quite comedically there, it must be said, over the top of the curb and between Brandon Dyer and Ryan Stringer. But Ryan Stringer right now, he's certainly going to see, they say your life flashes before your eyes when you're about to have a major incident, or in this case, a McLaren flash before his eyes. But Brandon Dyer there being escorted a bit wide by Dadapa, and suddenly all the gap he gained has suddenly been wiped out entirely as these two stay so close together here. But as Brandon makes about the inside, oh, there's contact with none other than Denny Ploger's car, and Ploger being turned sideways there in turn number 10, and the MJK Sim Racing driver would argue that you can't just simply elbow me out the way. And we didn't quite catch all of that there. We did see the bump from the rear camera of what was the machinery of Brandon Dyer. We didn't actually get CD contact on screen, and we may get a replay of that in due course. But as all he tries to carry on, Stephen Donnelly, meanwhile, he's got Alex Fretwell coming up behind him, and Donnelly there is going to give up a place by accident, so gives up 9th place in GT4. Donnelly doesn't look too happy in that car, to be fair. I think there's a problem, because the SimCast Racing driver right now, going quite slowly, yields a position to Brad Pickett as well, and the Dexterous Motorsports driver really up into the top 10 for the first time today since the start of the race. He's gained 3 places since we qualified in 13th in GT4. I think Stephen Donnelly right now is nursing an issue with the SimCast 41, and well, hopefully that issue is not going to prevent him from finishing this race. It might be a technical fault with the car, given he's carrying on. If it was bodywork or something else, he'll very likely be coming to the pit lane for the repairs, but I think this might be technical work in the cockpit itself. As he comes on down, well, Adam Wilson-Weir, 9 seconds behind, makes his way down the long straightaway, and right now the Type 2 and Next Gen driver, being supported by all the Next Gen admin teams there, I do believe at circuit side, and well, he's got Robin Noel Brown. These two I don't think have ever battled each other on circuit before, so it'll be interesting to see how they get on, because right now Noel Brown is inching just that little bit closer, in a livery that is giving me flashbacks to the 2009 Mercedes GP Brawn GP livery machine, the car that of course taking the Teams Championship plus also the Drivers' Championship in the former Jenson Button, and then of course being retired as a team at the end of the year and giving birth to now the modern era Mercedes team, which had the dominant era under Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg, followed up by Valtteri Bottas. But as the drivers carry on, well, 25 minutes still to go. The GT3 is definitely getting those pit stops done very early, for the most part. In Cable here for MRC 493, he hasn't read the memo. He's going a bit longer, and quite a few other GT3s going long as well. Scott Kostrich decides to go for the overcut. He just simply wants to carry on his journey as much as humanly possible and try to gain some places through the overcut. And the overcut can be very powerful, remembering the fact, of course, going the longest you can, you're essentially driving a light car, and you have an even lighter car in your second stint, because you have to take on less fuel to make up the same distance. So there is some credential to that idea, that really you want to make that opening fuel tank last as long as possible. But Jordan Maymar into the pit lane, James Howarth into the pit lane, and Russell Fowler. All 3 drivers here, 3 different stories. Jordan Maymar, by the way, going from 17th to 2nd in the GT3 class. Now, of course, caveat it, we have had multiple pit stops. Joey Ireland carries on here, but the point being that with this, we're really seeing the field shake up. Joey Ireland, in fact, well, where he's quick on 2 wheels or 4 wheels. On 4 wheels today, he's now up into 2nd place in GT3 with his pit stop complete, and Matthew Croft is not too far behind. Obviously, you have to carry out that with the difficulties for Andy Dawson, plus also for none other than Marley Joff, the runaway leader with the technical issues. But either way, these drivers bring some surprises, but Joey Ireland perhaps the biggest of them all, given the fact he's gone from 8th to 2nd. And the Ultra 3M Esports driver really doing well. But as more drivers start to leave the pit lane, well, we come back to battles for 5th place in GT3. Here is Ben Bennyworth, who has jumped ahead of Lorenz de Dapper and Christian Ablasser through strategy, whereby in the end, Bennyworth decides to pit 2 laps earlier on lap 22, and it has worked out very nicely for him. As we ride on board here with the number 98 for Gazix Racing Team 1 of Ablasser, he's lost out conversely. We thought he was doing a lot of fuel saving. He went 24 laps, but the problem is he's come up behind de Dapper, who had places to be, given how quick he was going. And as they make the way down, there's going to be a defensive line from Bennyworth, but de Dapper's had a monster run. Ablasser right now, he sees the space on the outside. He's going to be squeezed a little bit by the GPX SimSport McLaren GT4, but he does get past it in the end. But that definitely was one of those moments where I think Christian was thinking, what are you doing? And as he makes the way through turns 8 and 9, well, what he's doing right now is getting close to Bennyworth, who was passed by de Dapper around the outside to inside. The lovely move from the Belgian. And right now, de Dapper really moving on. He's gone from 18th to 5th in the GT3 class. Lorenz is absolutely charging out there, and the Belgian driver right now definitely did not qualify as well as he wanted to, and I suspect he may have been caught up there with some GT3s and GT4s over the session as he finds a faceful there, Patrick Hainan, and unfortunately catching the GT4 driver literally on the apex of the corner, the worst place to catch another car. And Charlie Devlin into the pit, and as he makes way down pit road, well, it's going to be Joey Ireland who's got a way to go, given the fact that he's currently second out there, but Lorenz de Dapper and that making the one through, and that shows you how far up the road Charlie Devlin was, and how far up the road our leaders have been. As really the battle for 5th right now unlaps itself for a period of time, and whilst they're coming through, Andrew Dawson almost on the back of this group already. The sim coach by Glass Step Racing driver turning adversity into advantage, some would say. And well, I think also the repair work to the car really flying right now as he's on the back of the battle for that 5th place in GT3, and it would be a further 14 seconds to catch up to Harvey Wheeler, which I know that Andy loves to do the impossible, but I think even the impossible has its limits of what is possible as he heads on through. But Charlie Devlin being in the pit lane at the moment, car being serviced. Where is Joey Ireland? He's making his way through turn 12 in towards 13, and as the Altitude 3M Esports driver does so from the very accomplished team, well, Devlin leaving his pit box now, and he's almost to the exit already. His pit box right towards the end. The green cone marks the limiter liftoff line. He's going to get off the limiter now, builds up the speed, uses all the road he's legally allowed to do so, as long as he doesn't cross that white line, and well, he'll come out very much ahead of Joey Ireland, and that's going to be to the tune of at least 15, well, not 15 seconds, I would say about 8 seconds by my reckoning, and in fact that's more towards 10 to 14 seconds now as the timing screen does start to update itself. So Joey Ireland's got some work to do. Charlie Devlin meanwhile in full control towards the end, it would seem, as now we are starting to see the GT4 pit stops, although Brandon Dyer, he hasn't got the memo. He's carrying on, but Rinko Jordanovsky, well, he's making his way towards pit exit already. He's done with his pit stop, and Ryan Stringer a little bit further back there. He's also been served. So the Future Class Racing driver opts in the pit before Brandon Dyer. Let's wait and see where that brings him back into the mix versus the man he's been battling with second for all the way through. But as we do say hello there to none other than the Next Gen Racing official account, and that is none other than Mark Sykes, and a big shout out there to Mark Sykes, livery designer, and I do believe the designer of several liveries you see on this grid, including the Altitude 3M Esports livery. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, Mark. And also, in relation to Motorsport UK, I do believe the official livery designer for the Tri-Nations liveries in the upcoming Tri-Nations Championship that was recently announced earlier today on the Motorsport UK Esports Discord. And indeed, Mark, a very accomplished livery designer, and also, must say, good personal friend of mine, and absolutely love Mark, no doubt about it. One of the friendliest guys you can meet, but also one of the funniest guys you can meet, particularly if you ever meet him when he is marshalling at circuit side. But as we leave our Mark in the YouTube chat behind, we come back to the man who's being marked by none other than many of his rivals, including Andy Dawson, who dives up the inside there of Ben Bennyworth. And as they roar the way and through, these drivers absolutely attacking as they come charging on the round and roaring the way through. And as they do, coming down towards what will be turn number 1 once again. And well, we do have, I believe, a black flag somebody spotted there for James Howarth. That will be for instant points, as we've also got a GT4 going very wayward. That's Robin Noel Brown, I'd like to say. But Dawson here looking for the potential move to Dapper, but Dapper pins him to the wall and says, you're going to do it, Andy. You're going around the outside. Thank you very much. And Andrew Dawson finding it right now. Lorenz is absolutely got himself to his position, but Dawson gets so close there on the running through the corner. And right now, the Belgian driver having to hold on as much as humanly possible. 19 minutes to go. And for Lorenz de Dapper, he wants to see if he can hold off one of the strongest drivers on this grid. If he can, it'll be a huge achievement. But the thing with Dawson is once he's got you in his sights, he's already pulled the trigger. He's going for it here, and it's a question of when, not if, he'll go for the move. So he comes on the inside into that braking zone. And what can the Dapper do? Can he go for a bit of a switch back here to try and get it back? He'll try to, but Dawson there absolutely perfect to the brakes, and will move his way through turns 8 to 9 now, and Dawson will take that 5th place. And Bennyworth, Ablasser all queue up behind, and will 6 seconds behind, enjoying his own freeway battle. It's Sean Bretamat, Bill Daniels, and Daniel Miller for 9th place in GT3. So there could yet be a bit of a weaving together between these two. And we'll have a further update there from Philip saying it might be a pit lane infringement for James Howarth. We are just going to double check that. And in fact, he has now had to make a second trip to the pit lane, and it would be for speeding in the pits if so. And it was a 43-second stop that time. That typically indicates a stop and hold 40 seconds for speeding. And sadly for Howarth, things have gone from good to backwards. But as all these tries come through, we say hello to Liam Fraser there, part of the Fraser family. And good evening to you, Liam. Hope you're doing well. And we also do say hello to Barry Wenman. And good evening to you, sir. And hope you're having a good day. But all the drives go through. Mikhail Sakuni as well, cheering on Kevin Smith. We'll come to the Rhino Esports cars shortly, as Lawrence De Dapper right now gradually being dropped there by Andy Dawson. As coming around, well, we can see there Ben Bennyworth not giving up the hunt yet, and the Quakeman Motorsport machine is still glued to the back of the Dapper, who is really on the limit here. And I think if he gets pushed any further, there's going to be a mistake from somebody here, but he will be the first one to break. That's the problem. We're coming down the middle section again. Well, plenty of action in GT3. There's also some in GT4. More on that shortly. Ben Bennyworth takes a sneak peek up the inside, but unfortunately that's more of a flirtation rather than a full force move. It's not going to work out. Meanwhile, Alex Fretwell, he's still chasing after Noah Kelly for 8th place in GT4. And Noah Kelly did manage to just about squeeze ahead of Fretwell on strategy in the end. These two have been close all race long, but Fretwell had moved all the way from 14th to 9th place in GT4, whereas Noah Kelly exactly where he started, 8th in the class, and just carried on. And they're 1.1 seconds behind this man, Joe Glass, who's definitely had a bit of misfortune today. As they come through, James Bostock as well, chasing after Denny Ploger, old stablemate in terms of battling in GT3 racing machinery. But what these two do in GT4 machinery. Ploger, of course, was involved in that incident earlier on. We definitely got turned more sideways than straight at turn 10, and Bostock involved his own instance as well. But both carrying on here and looking to try and impress where they can. From them, we come back to Andrew Dawson, who's found a bit of GT4 traffic by the looks of things, because he's now under attack from the Dapper again. In towards turn number 1, and the Dapper goes to the boot. My goodness. Right now, I can tell you one thing. If we had a medal for most ferocious driver of the season, Lawrence Dapper's already won it, not just for season 1, season 2 at this rate. And well, as Andy Dawson comes back at it there, Ben Bennyworth watches right now. He's got the ultimate popcorn seat view in the house. I must admit, I'm very jealous here of Ben Bennyworth, because as our battles box there finds its way onto the screen, when you see these drivers absolutely so close together right now, and Dawson and Dapper back and forth. And of course, for a number of these drivers, this is an honour to have the opportunity to battle one of the highest iRacing drivers they will ever see on a racing grid in the form of Dawson, being just shy of 9k iRacing when he signed up. Indeed, anybody who's above 3,000 iRacing has seen a very high percentile. When you get to 9,000 plus, you are really looking at some of the finest drivers out there in iRacing. The highest iRating being 13,100, I do believe held at one point by Alexander Spex in road racing. But right now, indeed, there are aliens, then there are superhuman beings from another galaxy, and then there's those who reside on the black hole. And I get the feeling right now Andy Dawson put himself in the alien category there, although today he's not flying a flying saucer, he's driving a McLaren GT3 as they come out of turn number 13, and all these drives absolutely back and forth at the moment. But Christian Ablasser, of course, and he continues to watch on, following Ben Bennyworth and waiting in the wings for an opportunity to potentially pounce and make a move of his own accord. But I did say we'd get some visibility of our Rhino Esports cars. We will after this run at the start for the straight. Ben Bennyworth there going to the inside, both to cover off Ablasser, but also try to get into the head of the Dapper and get into his brain. But meanwhile, definitely trying to get into the barbecue bread racing a brain there of Jean Bretamat is Bill Daniels. And right now, not making that move happen. But the Exorcism Sports Sim Coach driver still staying close, looking for another opportunity when he is able to. Ashley Brooks, meanwhile, and Jordan Maymar, they find each other on the circuit, and Brooks makes his way on the inside. That's going to be a smooth move, up in the 12th place in the class, just like that. What about Russell Fowler? Here he is, and right now he's getting ready to make his way a lap over Brian Beardsworth, essentially. And Russell Fowler right now 6 seconds behind the Maymar-Brooks battle, and the fight for 12th is currently running in 14th place. As for where Kevin Smith is by comparison, well, unfortunately, after what was that incident in time to the pit lane, Smith is no longer in this race. He has retired from the race due to damage to the car, and therefore Russell Fowler being the sole Rhino Esports Flux deliveries represented now for the remainder of the race distance. Unfortunate incident for Kevin Smith, and definitely one I think that everyone will try to understand what exactly went wrong. But we come back to battling further down the GT4 field, and this is James Bostock with Denny Ploger. The only problem they have is they've got Brad Pickett, who would ideally like to make his way past. There is Brad behind Bostock's car, as we now look to the rear bumper camera. And Brad currently running in 10th place in GT4 compared to their battle for 18th place. I think Brad's going to look up the inside here, but not be able to beat Bostock on the brakes. This is a bit of a difficult one for Pickett, given the fact that he does have Stephen Donnelly coming up very quickly behind him, who would ideally like to clear Bostock and Ploger, but they've also got their eyes set on their own battle. Now, off camera, I'm hearing that Christian Ablas has had a technical retirement, and if so, that means we're losing our Austrian driver from what's a very close race to be right inside the top 10 of the cars. As meanwhile, that's absolute pandemonium coming in the back of the picture, but James Bostock makes it with Denny Ploger, and in the end, Denny Ploger making a bit of a mistake there, coming out of turn 5 and 6, and into the braking zone they go, and that's going to be Brad Pickett trying to cut his way through when he can, and we're in, and they all make it through. Denny Ploger outbrakes himself, almost collecting James Bostock in the process, and that's to try and keep Pickett behind for just a little bit longer, but look at the queue that's built up behind. Oh no, and he goes very sideways there, and who is that going around? That's Lorenz de Dapper, and there's a couple of tries to take to the grass there to avoid getting collected with him, but Lorenz in the end, it all goes round, and for Ben Bennyworth, well, I did see there none other than Andy Chell saying Ben has the patience of a saint, and well, that patience has paid off, because he's now been promoted to 6th place as a result of the chaos and calamity that played out. But what is Hazel's today? It's brought Jean Breiteback now in 2.5 seconds. You'll see him very short in the rear of the picture. There he is, and this is a long queue of GT3s and GT4s here, and this is the intermingling of both classes, and right in amongst all of that, well, you do have the likes of none other than Stephen Donnelly, I do believe, and also Lewis Johnson. But the other side of the circuit, here's Robin Pownier. He's currently running 4th in the GT4 class and looking to try and make a move on Brandon Dyer, who's 3 seconds up the road. But Jack Wyborn, perhaps the bigger danger man here, the MRC 491 driver. And many of you remember, of course, him being caught up in an instance earlier on as he makes way down, and well, he's made his way back into 5th place. Could have a chance at 4th here if he can attack Pownier, but he won't be helped by the GT3 that says hello on his inside. That's Ash Brooks' car, and in the end, Wyborn lets it go, but getting ready to attack Pownier. There's no question about that. As we also do say hello to Mark Kent in the YouTube chat. Indeed, you find one Mark, there's 2 Marks in the YouTube chat right now, or as they would say, the Star Wars meme, now there are 2 of them. Good evening to you, good sir. And we also say hello to Welsh Boy 2012. Good evening to you. Good to see you all tuning in, enjoying all the racing action. But right now, definitely 12 minutes left to go. We've still got plenty of questions unanswered in this race. And one of the big ones is, how far can Jack Wyborn recover? Because only 4 seconds up the road from Pownier is Brandon Dyer. I think he's lost Ryan Stringer. Rinko Jordanovsky has got to a postcode of his own. There is Rinko Jordanovsky, as we briefly just saw Robin Noel Brown getting it wrong out of turn 14 and parking his way towards the barrier on the start-finish straight. Definitely a few drivers right now in the postcode of their own, and others still fighting. Another one who's fighting or found a bit of competition is Bill Daniels attacking Lorenz de Dapper here. And he's going to go up the inside immediately. Daniels goes through, and I get the feeling those in the grandstand right now will be absolutely screaming in joy with regards to that move. Well, that was bold, that was brave, it was absolutely brilliant for the American driver. And on home soil, giving himself the extra 5%. As he looks to make his way around the outside of one of our GT4s, that being the Simcast Racing GT4 there. Well, Lorenz de Dapper has to back off. Bill Daniels having a bit of a discontinuity with his internet connection and not knowing exactly where the McLaren rival would appear. So in the end, letting it go and getting ready potentially for a move later on. But with 10 minutes on the clock by the time this man gets to turn 1, well, Charlie Devlin leads the way then. He is 13 seconds ahead. The Future Class Racing driver is from Joey Ireland, Altitude 3M Esports in number 21. And then we do have 7 seconds back to Matthew Croft there for Axis and Sports with AB Designs. And right now making his way on around there with Harvey Wheeler steadily closing the gap by 3 to 4 tenths a lap. Here is Harvey Wheeler. And remember, of course, he started in 7th place, but the three-wheeler racing driver is roaring onwards. And completing that top 5 of GT3 is Andrew Dawson. And after being caught up in that incident with Kevin Smith earlier on, it was a multi-car incident to be fair, it wasn't just the 2 of them. Indeed, a bit of a contentious moment. Well, Dawson right now trying to recover his way through, was forced onto an undercut strategy and has made his way back to 5th. But how far can he go with 12 seconds between him and Wheeler, although he is closing on Wheeler at the moment very gradually. Then in GT4, meanwhile, as Christian Ablasser is in the pit lane, unfortunately, and I do believe when issue with the car, here is Marinko Jordanovsky, the Gazix Racing Team 1 driver, and whilst one Gazix Racing car is out of this race, he's leading the way in GT4 by 8.5 seconds ahead of Ryan Stringer, although the gap has come down recently, but it has been aided by GT3 traffic. So for Jordanovsky, it's given and it is taken, and Stringer will be feeling the same way potentially as he tries to hold that 3.5 second gap to Brandon Dyer, who sits in 3rd of the class, and Altitude 3M Esports might be picking the biggest haul of points in this race compared to anybody, given the fact they're both set now for a double podium here, and Robin Powney a bit further back running in fourth. He has Jack Wyborn trying to steady close on him, albeit the SimCoach driver is 1.7 seconds ahead of this man. The MRC 491 driver at one point was challenging for second place. It went wrong early on in his battle with Diane and Stringer, and now he's trying to string it all back together here and get himself onto that podium. But it's not quite working out at this time. He's still got more time to close down, and he's finding some more traffic out there. Alex Fretwell, meanwhile, back with Joe Glass. Well, Joe had the absolutely brilliant battle at Silverstone, the pre-season event, versus Lewis Johnson, and here today he's finding something even more fortuitous fighting as he tries to roll the way through the corners. But right now, Fretwell stands close as he possibly can, and we'll have to see what he can do here as he finds he's got a whole hungry host of GT3s behind. So he comes in towards turn number 10, and that's going to be the GT3, the 5M racing car, making its way on the inside, and Fretwell Hill gets a better run as a result. Here he goes. Now, will Glass try and close the door? The answer is no. He's going to be on the inside there, but it'll be 3 wide. It could even be almost 4 wide. In fact, it's double 3 wide here, and Fretwell goes to turn in, finds the face full of 1 GT3, then 2, and Joe Glass is able to stay with on the inside here. So Joe Glass getting the better story out of the two of them. From left into right they go, and well, there you can see Ashley Brooks being caught up there behind Glass. Nothing he can do about that. And also there, Jordan Maymar having to wait very patiently as they make the one to the start finish straight. Maymar parts the seas. Oh, who's that around? Is that Andrew Fellows? I think it is. I think Fellows has had a bit of a spin. He has out the final corner, and the GPX SimSport Vertex driver, he's definitely created a vortice on a straight, which is not the way you want it to go at all. As Lewis Johnson, meanwhile, looks to drag his way past James Bostock, using the side toe, as Fellows eventually getting the car turned around, doing his best Austin Powers impression there with regards to what was the JCB machine being caught in a very tight corridor. And Lewis Johnson right now up the inside James Bostock just like that, and now moves his way back into 17th place. Nowhere near the 3rd place he qualified, but to be fair, taking some points back as a result of this. That's all he can do at this point. Is just get his head down and grab some points. Because remember, no drop scores this season, and therefore every point is precious. And that's why Joe Glass and Alex Fretwell was still fighting hard here. The only real battle in the GT4 class at the moment inside that top 10. And Glass here having to make sure he gets as close as possible to the GT4 in front of him. That's the lap down car of Robin Noel Brown. They want to put a lap on shortly. And well, the GT3s all queue up behind there. That's going to be one of the MRC Endurance Team cars coming through. There's also going to be the car there. I want to say that's Russell Fowler finding his way on past. And Fowler right now still got a long gap to Jordan Maymar, so therefore finding himself a bit out of position. All these drivers swapping back and forth here, and Alex Fretwell still trying to stay with Glass, but unfortunately for him, he now has to clear Robin Noel Brown first. It's going to cost him a bit of time as they come through turn 13. Not because Noel Brown's acting a nuisance, it's just the way when you have to overtake. They come close towards the final 5 minutes of this race. We do have a yellow flag for track limits to Ross Young, so he's had a bit of a moment somewhere. I would like to say that's happened at the turn 7-8 chicane, or the turn 8-9 chicane I should say, and Young's going to have to give up that time as he also lets Charlie Devlin on through there, and we falls a further lap down to Devlin now as Devlin goes on to lap number 39. But roaring the way on down, and as they do, well, these drivers right now still keeping their head down as we also say hello there to K4SIP Racing, cheering on, I do believe, at Joey Island. So good to see you tuning in, good sir. We didn't give you a shout out earlier on, so I do apologise. And well, Phillips there giving us confirmation earlier on and saying there were internet issues, as quoted from the SimCoach Garage. So Marley Joff having to, at the time, race due to an internet disconnection, which would be the equivalent of a technical failure in the car in reality. These things can happen. And well, if you want the funny part of it, a number of our drivers based in the United Kingdom, given that we have had the solar eclipse this evening, literally just before we went racing, about 10 minutes before we went qualifying is when the eclipse finished. Well, there was a report from some energy companies in the United Kingdom because of the interruption to solar power generation that actually some households would see an intermittent potential power cut for a brief period of time. And that led to a lot of our drivers being worried they wouldn't actually be able to go qualify. Now, thankfully, that didn't happen, but it was a bit of a big scare. But so let's come back to our 5M racing driver right now, the 43 of Daniel Miller, who's trying to give Bill Daniels a bit of a scare as he makes his way down the start-finish straight with 5 minutes to go and a final lap in tow. And right now, looking for that 8th place if he can. But is it going to work out? The answer is no. Gets close and finds Jack Wyborn's at GT4. And then Wyborn will step aside. I think that's Wyborn to be fair. Is that Virginio Garcia? It's not, because Garcia's a bit further back, and he also is a GT3 driver. We'll get it right eventually, I promise you that. We're going back to Bill Daniels right now. Definitely Finn Daniel Mellard there. And 2.5 seconds behind is Lawrence De Dapper, Ashley Brooks and Jordan Maymar. All getting very close. So it's definitely proving to be one of these races where there's still life in the GT3 class at the back end of the top 10. But Dapper right now trying to hold on. But he has found himself some stiff competition. Ashley Brooks, I think, will give Dapper a run for his money in terms of how fierce they can battle. If I know Ashley, he's one of those drivers whereby you get under his skin, he doesn't take it personally, but he definitely lets you know about it. He becomes a bit BTCC-esque in the way he drives when it's a bit of one of those battles. Not that's a bad thing, to be fair. We do love some elbows out racing action, so long as they keep it relatively clean, particularly there being higher scrutiny for this Motorsport UK Esports Approved Championship with its formal stewarding panel. But as number 19 driver comes on down here, clears the GT4s out the way for a brief moment. Now he's got a bit of clear track, although there is another pack of cars up the road. That's not going to help out here as they come towards the end of their 39th tour of the circuit. He's got to build himself up there. Those rear tyres as well now. We're starting to lose their life, and with it, it will feel a little bit sketchy coming out the corner. Brushes the exit wall turn 14. Not something you want to do, but you can't turn any more than that, because otherwise will overturn the car. And down the start finish straight he goes here, both in the draft of the GT4 in front. That's going to be Brandon Dyer's GT4, the man who's currently running in third place in the class. And Ashley Brooks follows on through there, and Brandon makes it very straightforward. Meanwhile, Joe Glass still under pressure from Alex Fretwell and none other than Noah Kelly. And Noah Kelly has caught right up to this battle, in fact. So as they make the way around, we say hello to Essex Webify, who's done a good showing from the future glass guys out there. Well, I think for the Glass Step Racing Machine of Joe Glass here comes Fretwell looking on the inside. Down towards turn 1, this will be for 7th place in the class, and they go 3 wide with GT3. And well, onto the brakes they go. Alex Fretwell tries to win on the brakes. He gets it stopped in just the time. Ross Young, to be fair, in the GT3 being very observant of Fretwell's place. Otherwise, he could have turned in and caused an incident. But Fretwell there, given the space, what a lovely move. But Glass isn't done. Here he comes looking around the outside and doesn't quite work out there for the man commentator, presenter and racing driver. And right now as they come through, we can see there that is going to be the machinery of Gazek's racing team having to be a little bit cautious in terms of coming through. And that's going to be the car of Christian Ablas there. Sadly, making his way back to the pit lane, but back out now, going racing, but not where it belongs, which is towards the top 5 of the class. But as it does sequence its way in amongst the GT4 drivers, well, this gives Noah Kelly the opportunity now to attack Glass, but will he be able to do so, given he's also got their GPX SimSport car on his back door, and that's going to be the car of John Ludbrett there saying hello. And well, swaps the outside to inside, and well, an absolutely lovely run there being made by Moise Ludbrett to clear the ball in one fell swoop. But with that, the battle is on between Brooks and Dapper. In towards turn 1 they go. We catch the midpoint of it. As Sight tells me Ashley Brooks they're going all in, as we have had a disqualification for the race due to instant point to Lewis Johnson off camera. I'm hearing in my ear. So that's confirmed at the bottom of your GT4 timing tower at the moment. And Ashley Brooks losing out there versus Lorenzo Dapper. But how did that play out? Here's a quick look back to give you some answers to it. And this was going down the start-finish straight. The two of them there. Lorenzo Dapper was the attacker, Ashley Brooks the defender, and picks up the overspeed, got the draft, and once they came on down here, elbows out once, and well, Brooks wanted more space, and then Dapper almost gave it to him, and then realised, hold up, there's a GT4 in front of me, I can't do that, and they went too wide all the way through the corner. They did not give up either driver, and in the end, it was Lorenzo who got that done. Brooks just sliding a little bit wide with some understeer, but we come back, and as we do, they're back at it once again, out of turn 10. Dapper has just gone very wide out the corner, so Brooks has moved back forward, and now only 1 minute to go. So after this lap, they'll likely have another 2 more, because our lead is already halfway around lap number 42 of the circuit in the GT3 class, and so there's still a lot more life left in this battle. I can definitely assure you of that, as Ben Bennyworth right now finds himself under pressure from Jean Breitenbach. Breitenbach has caught up to him quite recently, little by little, and Bill Daniels is there as well with them. But Bennyworth doing a fantastic job, it must be said. And, well, he's got to try and hold on just that little bit longer. Jean Breitenbach is finding pace towards the end of the race. He's definitely got perhaps the better managed tyres of everybody inside the back end of the top 10. So right now, can the South African driver steal away 6th place here? And will be a very impressive race for him, coming all the way from 11th in class to 7th. The same can be said for Bennyworth from 12th to 6th. Yes, they've been aided by retirements, but also they've had to do the hard work on the road, making some overtakes along the way. Well, Breitenbach thinking about the move. It's not going to come forward for him at the moment. Instead, having to wait and hold his moment. As meanwhile, Noah Kelly finds himself under a bit of pressure to close back up to Joe Glass, who's made a bit of a break. But as he breaks away, our leader, here he is, Charlie Devlin, over on in GT3. He's on his final lap because the clock has 10 seconds left. We'll get a 43rd and final lap here today in GT3. And once he has finished the race and the checker flag falls, the GT4 race will finish, essentially, when they come across that line. So therefore, it's not going to come down to when the GT4 leader cross the line. It'll be as they all cross the line, they will all be classified as finishers, and well, the GT4 leader will do the most laps of all of the class, understandably. But as Charlie Devlin carries on, we're going to come back to the Bennyworth-Breitenbach battle for just a little bit longer. as they head down towards turn number 1, and Ben Bennyworth right now keeping his ground, keeping his cool, but you can see Jean Braithwaite there, closer and closer he goes, 1.5 tenths, he peels out of the toe, looking to the inside, but it's all for naught there, and Ben Bennyworth not phased, just keeping his ground and knowing to stick to his guns. That's smart driving for you from the Quackmas Motorsport driver, but as he makes his way onto this lap, we come back to Charlie Devlin, for as he makes his way through the final quarter, was Marley Joff's race to take, but a technical issue saw him retire, and with other drivers coming under fire, not quite so for Charlie Devlin. It's a win in the season opener for the Future Class Racing in the 23, and he takes the win in GT3 and overall by quite a staggering 15.5 seconds. Third in the GT4 class behind that was Brandon Dyer, but meanwhile Joey Ireland will come on through to take the runner-up spot there in GT3 for Altitude Frame Esports in the 21, and then making his way through a very little camera time today, it must be said. Matthew Croft rounds out the GT3 podium in a silent but smart race. Well done to him for doing so. They're third in the class. Harvey Wheeler then coming through in fourth, just ahead of Andrew Dawson. You can see in the rear of the picture more of our GT4s going on through there, including none other than Alex Fretwell just ahead of Joe Glass to take 7th. Glass was 8th, and Noah Kelly 9th in their class, with Brad Pickett completing the top 10 in the GT4s. But where exactly are some of our further finishers? Where is Minko Jonoski? He's still got a bit more of the lap to do, as James Foster comes across the line there in 15th place in GT4. We've still got a few more GT3 drivers coming through, including Ben Bennyworth, who in the end does take 6th. Sean Braithwaite's got it wrong right at the end, so he holds on to that 6th place in GT3 ahead of Braithwaite. Bill Daniels manages to fend off Daniel Mellor to the line for 8th place in class, and Ashley Brooks comes home in 10th there, holding off Lawrence to Dapper in their brilliant back and forth battle. But as we do see Russell Fowler come to the line there, the sole of Rhino Esports machine making it to the finish, here comes Rinko Jornovsky, and with the Gazix Racing Team 1 driver, it's a season opening GT4 win by 10 seconds almost ahead of Ryan Stringer. The two of them, the only GT4 drivers to do a 40th lap of the circuit, with Brandon Dyer's race being terminated on lap 39, given where he was in relation to our overall leader. But Ryan Stringer, to be fair, earning that 2nd place very well, and managing to pull away from Brandon Dyer and that early battle with Jack Wyborn as well. But as all our drivers see the finish line, what a race it has been. Robin Noel Brown with the last drive to take a checker flag in this race, finishing there in 47th overall, not 47th overall, 40th overall, in 17th in GT4. He is the 47 car, that's why I'm getting my numbers mixed up there. And Max Dean just calling on down there for Gav Max Racing, as he will also see his way into pit lane very shortly. But what a race that was, and whilst it was a bit of misfortune for some of your drivers in the GT3 class, perhaps none more so than the Sim Coach machinery, with Marley Joff having the technical issue, the internet connectivity issue, and Andrew Dawson being caught up with that prang with Kevin Smith's car, but recovering to 5th. It was still Charlie Devlin's day today. Remember what Charlie said to us at Silverstone? He was expecting it to be very tough competition. Well, I wonder if we'll catch up with him today, and whether what we'll have to say to him, or what he'll have to say to us, I should say, when we say to him, you do realise you've just won the season opening race here at Indianapolis. Well, for all that and more, we'll get some interviews in due course, but the first thing we must do is let our drivers cool and calm down, take a look to the scenic view, and bring you the class results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we can see, after an absolutely epic 60 minutes of racing to open up this season opening event for the Transatlantic Trophy Season 1, brought to you by SimRacing International, the Motorsport UK Esports approved championship, as powered by trophi.ai and supporting sponsors of SimCoach, Mr. Hedge, and also out there none other than Carme. We got to see Charlie Devlin take the GT3 win. A brilliant win for him, no doubt about it. And in fact, ladies and gentlemen, give us a brief moment, and we do have our music kicking in there, just a slight fault, and the music does arrive, and Charlie Devlin taking that win. I'll be absolutely ecstatic about it. Joey Ireland, run-up here today, but to be fair, the Altitude at 3M Esports drive won't be too upset to be the run-up, given the way the race has played out. And I think he'll be very happy to see himself on the podium, 15 seconds behind the winner, but in turn, 4 seconds ahead of Matthew Croft, with the Access Sports with AB Design driver rounding off that GT3 podium. Harvey Wheeler, 4th there for Three Wheeler Racing, just ahead of none other than what was Andrew Dawson, who did very well to recover, given he was forced onto an early undercut strategy given what had happened. And then we did see at 6th place there, Ben Bennyworth for Quackmas Motorsport, ahead of Jean Braithwaite, the barbecue bread racing driver, fighting hard to the end, but couldn't find a way to break down Bennyworth's defensive wall. Bill Daniels, 8th for Access Sports with SimCoach, ahead of Daniel Mellor, and the 5M Racing Drive fighting hard with Bill Daniels towards the end, but Daniels holding on home soil for a top 10, and then it was Ashley Brooks completing at the top 10 for Access Sports with SimWorks. Lawrence Dapper, 11th there, best of the rest for LS Racing ahead of Russell Fowler. The Verano Esports Flux livery drive, making sure to stay on the lead lap, even if he didn't have the happiest of opening laps. And Jordan Maymar, 13th there for Simcast Racing, just ahead of the lap down finisher of John Ludbrook. And it'll be lap downs as well for Max Dean, Scott Kostrich, Kenneth Baird, Virgilio Garcia, Ian Cable, and James Howarth, particularly with what was the altercation in the pit lane for speed in the pits. He had to make a stop and go penalty. And we also did see there finishing 2 laps down in the GT3 class by Brian Beardsworth, substituting in, of course, and none other than what was the driver of Gareth Newton. And we also saw a difficult day for Ross Young, as it was 3 laps down for Christian Ablasser, but still classified for Kazakhstan Racing Team 1, with technical issues preventing him from taking the top 5. And then we had non-finishes for Luke Van Gertel, Marley Joff, and Ray Howe. As for the GT4 class, here we go to the second of our classes, but by no means least. And here we can see in GT4, it was victory for Marinko Jordanovsky, the Kazakhstan Racing Team 1 driver, taking a stapled-on win in the end by 9.6 seconds, but with the only other driver who finished on the same lap as him, Ryan Stringer for Future Class Racing. Stringer, to be fair, put together a phenomenal race, no doubt about it, aided somewhat by the altercations between himself, Brandon Dyer, and Jack Wyborn in the early stages, but you still got to put it together, and that's what he did, and classified as a lap down, given where they finished in relation to the overall leader. Brandon Dyer round off the podium there for Altitude 3M Esports, head of Robin Powney for SimCoach and Jack Wyborn for MRC 491. But to be fair, Wyborn doing a very good job of recovering given the way the race went in the opening 15 minutes. Max Wheeler, 6th there, three-wheeler racing, fights his way forward, staying clear of Alex Fretwell, the Quench 9PP Berry Crush driver. And crushing the hopes and aspirations of Joe Glass to take home that 7th place. And Sim coached by Glass Tech Racing driver to settle for 8th when he knew there was more pace in the car and potentially a top 5 in the cards today. Joe Glass then being followed up by Noah Kelly, who came on strong towards the end for LS Racing, and Brad Pickett completing the top 10 there for Dexterous Motorsports. Adam Wilson Weir, the Type 2 with Next Gen driver, having a bit of a up and down race, a lot of pace in the car, but unfortunately he perhaps came off the worst when it came to GT3 traffic, and Stephen Donnelly was with him for Simcast Racing. 2 laps down, it was James Pallett ahead of Patrick Heynen and James Bostock, who then got the upper hand in his battles with Patrick 48 and also Denny Ploger, although Patrick 48 would finish 16th directly behind him. It'd be a bit of time before Denny Ploger would see the finish line. Behind between them all, Robin Noel Brown in what was 17th place there, and 3 laps down to both Martin Keane and Gavin Corby. And for the Gav Max Racing driver, it was a further 4 laps to Lewis Johnson with disqualification enforced upon him due to too many instant points, but will be, I do believe, therefore not receiving any points. And outside the top 20, it was Chris Keenan, head of Andrew Fellows, Denny Ploger, Steve Nicks, Kevin Smith and Craig Hewlett, and all those drivers sadly will be classified as non-classified, I do believe, for not making the 75% distance rule. Although saying that, I think Chris Keenan will be classified and potentially Andrew Fellows, but definitely not from Denny Ploger downwards. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that completes your rundown of the provisional results for the season opening round here of the SimRacing International Transatlantic Trophy Season 1, brought to you from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, powered by trophi.ai. And as we do get ready to have our post-round interviews, we are going to step away for a brief moment, but when we come back, I'm going to tell you one thing, we're going to get plenty of words from our drivers and all the stories up and down the grid today. But do let us know how much you've enjoyed the racing in the respective YouTube chat and who you'd like to potentially hear from in those post-round interviews. But with that, we'll be back in about 5 minutes time to get our first interviews of the season formally underway.
For the upcoming right-hander, brake 30 meters later and ease off the pressure.
If you've enjoyed today's racing and are sat there right now asking yourself, well, how do I get on the grid at SimRacing International and become part of the fun, fast and furious racing action? Well, it's quite easy to do. All you need to do is join the official SimRacing International Discord, invite link at the bottom of your screen. And in doing so, well, you can get on the grid for any of our ongoing and upcoming series. Ongoing currently, we have our Thursday evening GT3 Championship, run on a weekly basis with 2 splits, 60 drives in each split, 120 drives in total. Indeed, whether you're a rookie all the way through to a veteran, you'll find competition there without a doubt. And the same extends to all of our other ongoing series, including, for those who prefer to race on weekends, the UK Sim Racing Sunday Showdown, dedicated to GT3 machines as well, running every Sunday evening. Plenty of fast and furious racing action just before you go into the next week ahead. But if you're a big fan of GTE machines, much missed since their retirement in 2023, don't you worry, we've got you covered there with an Endurance Focus Championship that runs every 2 weeks on Friday evenings. Alternatively, you're looking to go for the very best of our prizes and offer, we do have our all-new Motorsport UK Esports approved championship. It is the Transatlantic Trophy in its inaugural season, dedicated for its opening season to Bruce McLaren's wonderful machines, the McLaren 720S GT3 Evo and the McLaren 570S GT4, and that runs every 2 weeks on Wednesday evenings. But if you're looking for something far more casual, perhaps you're just looking to dip your toes in and meet some like-minded individuals in the sim racing space, well, we do have our practice league that runs every week, multiple free races on alternating days. So there's something for everybody here at Sim Racing International, whether you're an esports professional all the way through to rookie racer. So don't delay, get yourself signed up to the Discord today and get yourself on the grid. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's about time for us to get our interviews underway. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time to kick off our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers, and we're going to begin by coming to none other than what will be Charlie Devlin, your winner today in GT3 and overall. Give us a brief moment and he'll be joining us in the interview room. In fact, here he comes now. Charlie, good evening to you. What a way to open up your season. Victory in GT3. I mean, you must be over the moon.
Yeah, of course. Wasn't expecting that when I came into this evening. Of course, we had 2 very quick sim coach boys in today, and they both just suffered really had luck and unfortunate circumstances. Obviously, one of them disconnected and one of them got ended up in a GT4 crash. So, yeah, it's unfortunate the way that it ended, but I'll always take a win.
Oh, indeed. Always take a win, like you say. And I do remember when we caught up after Silverstone, you were saying how stiff the competition would be. Although, to be fair to you, 3rd place in qualifying in such a tough field, you must have been impressed by your qualifying performance.
Yeah, quali was tough to say the least. I think the one lap that I had was on, or my fastest lap I should say, was on like semi-cold tyres, so my tyres weren't quite there. And obviously when they came up, there was more grip, but the traffic was just absolutely immense. There was no room to get a fast lap in. I got on my in lap, I got to slow down because I was like 3 tenths up or something, and I got to slow down. I thought, oh, great, yeah, that's just what I wanted. And then I went out on some fresh tyres, got them warmed up, and then I ran out of fuel on the lap that I had no traffic. So that was unfortunate, but at the end of the day, it's an hour-long race. Quali's not really that important. Obviously, track position is still very important, but having that consistency of just being around the top somewhere, just getting the points, is just what I needed.
Oh, indeed, a highly consistent run from yourself. And when we did go racing, we saw you put in a very good performance early on to really follow Marley Joff. But it looked as though as time went on, he just started to open up that gap and you could never quite stay with him.
Yeah, he's just better. To put simply, he's just better. Yeah, he's just better. Yeah, obviously tried to stay with off the start, got a really good launch. Obviously the rules here are slightly different from what I'm used to, so the whole grid's kind of getting used to that. So yeah, that was something new. A good launch. Just tried to try and stay in that slipstream. Obviously he got out, just pulled away, to be honest. He got a little bit unfortunate with the first little bits of traffic. And then it kind of swapped the other way. I got really unfortunate with traffic, and that just led him to absolutely run away it. Obviously until his unfortunate disconnect, which ended his race.
Now, of course, traffic gives, traffic taketh. Indianapolis, a circuit where there's only on average between the leading laps of both classes around a 7-second gap. I mean, did it make negotiating the GT4s quite challenging, despite the fact you have the extra downforce and a little bit more engine power?
Yeah, it was really difficult. At the end of the straights, the GT4s were kind of staying with us. We only had about a 5 or 10 kph different in top end speed, so it kind of all came down to the braking performance in the corners, so you know, like the downforce and stuff like that. So it actually made it really difficult, because obviously you got to kind of pick where you want to go in the corners. If you're close enough, can you get them on the brakes into the corner without, you know, causing an incident or anything like that? So it was really tricky, and some of the GT4s are quite lower rated, so maybe they're not as experienced in kind of multi-car situations, so you've just got to be, you know, wary of who you're around at all times. But yeah, managed to get through it well today.
Oh, he did very well to clear through the way through the traffic in the end, and after Marley Joss' retirement, leading the race. Although it did look at in the end, it was more about just surviving. How was it on the tyres? Because of course, coming into the pits, just taking fuel, no tyre changes here today. That's probably going to be a theme of our 60-minute races.
Yeah, the tyres were a real struggle to the end. To be honest, the tyres, the rear tyres especially, dropped below kind of the drop-off phase of the tyre. So yeah, the last kind of 10-15 minutes, it became really difficult. But it's still, well, I think it's still quicker to not take tyres, obviously, because the warm-up phase of a new tyre is so long. It's kind of 5 or 6 laps, and it really does take a lot of time. I think, as you say, for the 60-minute races, I think it's going to be just in a little bit of fuel and back out again. For the 90-minute races, it might be different. I think we will end up taking tyres, because they will just be absolutely shot at the end of 90 minutes. So it will just be like driving on ice. So yeah, it is obviously a mix-up of strategy. Again, today I went for my signature fuel save. Ended up stopping in the pits for 3 seconds, or looks to be 3 seconds shorter than everyone else. So again, that makes a small difference. Gaining time in the pits, it's free lap time, to be honest. So yeah, just making sure that the strategy is all good at all times.
Well, indeed, smart strategy, plus also being smooth on the road. A first win on the cards, at least a podium was going to be, but a win nonetheless. And next up, Miami International Autodrome in 2 weeks' time. What can we expect from you there?
I have absolutely no idea. I've never ever driven it, so that's going to be interesting, to say the least. Today I didn't actually have much practice coming into this. I kind of had maybe 10-15 minutes in the practice before the qualifying, and then I got a bit carried away looking at the solar eclipse outside my bedroom window. So yeah, some more time's definitely going to go into Miami, that's for sure, being a new track for me. And we just got to try and carry it through. Obviously, my teammate Ryan also did a really good job today securing P2. So that's good points for the team.
Well, indeed, big points for the team for both yourself and also Ryan. And therefore, I think it is going to see the pair of you leading the way going into the next round. And just before we do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention or a shout out to on the stream?
Just a big shout out to Future Glass, obviously, for sponsoring me for this, and also my real life BMW racing. Where the BMW 116 Trophy, which I'm racing, is at Silverstone International this weekend, which is really exciting. Racing with 4040 Racing, which is obviously absolutely amazing. Obviously, my massive dream of racing in real life has become a reality. So yeah, a massive appreciation to obviously my parents, my mum, my dad, aunts and uncles that come along and watch sim racing as well. And yeah, just massive shout out to Future Glass.
Well, Charlie, it's been great to catch up with you after your season opening win. We wish you the best luck racing at Silverstone this weekend as part of the 750 Motor Club's BMW 116 Sprint Series, and we look forward to hearing about your escapades there. But until then, have a lovely evening, and we'll catch you at Miami in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Charlie Devlin, the future class racing driver in the number 23 today, taking the GT3 victory, admitting he was pleasantly surprised to take the win, albeit aided, as he admitted there, by the difficulties of the sim coach drivers, Andrew Dawson having his instant, and also a technical retirement for Marley Joff. But sometimes you've got to be in the right place to pick up the pieces, and in the end, prioritising fuel saving, keeping it smooth, keeping it calm, keeping it consistent, and earn himself that win. And with the achievements of his teammate Ryan Stringer, a huge set of results for the team, and it means they set the pace going into round number 2. And looking forward to racing this weekend in real life, and we'll wish him all the best luck on that. And remember, if you do want to see Charlie go racing in the BMW 116 Sprint Series, do make sure you go check out the 750 Motor Club. They'll be broadcasting out on YouTube from Silverstone, I believe. Alternatively, go and see it yourself. You won't be disappointed. It's a very capable car, and we look forward to hearing how he gets on there and seeing him at Miami. By that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got another interview coming up, and in fact, I do believe now we're going to be going to our second place man in the class. We're going to be hearing from none other than Joey Ireland. So give us a brief moment, and we'll be catching up with Joey. And so, in fact, we do go to Joey Ireland here in the number 21 GT3, and he joins me now in the interview room. Joey, good evening to you, and well, what a day it's been for yourself, from 8th to 2nd in the GT3 class. I mean, can you quite believe it?
No, not really. I felt like I really struggled with qualifying, but would you look at that? We managed to put it on P2, so didn't expect it at all. The tyres felt good towards the end of the race. We had an excellent pit stop for the fuel. Yeah, can't believe it. What a great result for the team.
Well, let's see if we can piece it all together a little bit. Qualifying, 8th in class. I mean, definitely seems like there's perhaps a bit more pace out there. How was qualifying for you? Because it must have been a very crowded circuit with 50 cars, half of them being GT4s.
Yeah, I think I struggled a lot in qualifying. I went out, tried to make a gap, but every time I went for another fast lap, literally just came up to traffic. I couldn't get past it. It was very difficult. So I feel like qualifying for me was a very difficult session. Hopefully, maybe next time I can learn from that when we go to Miami and try and make a little bit of a gap. But yeah, it's absolutely mayhem with 50 cars on the track. It's great racing, great for you guys to watch, I'm sure. But yeah, it's so difficult to get a good, clean lap in.
Oh, indeed. I can appreciate that difficulty, perhaps not always apparent to all of us spectators and us sat here in the commentary booth. But when we did go racing, we saw you take a very steady approach to the race, whereas others perhaps made mistakes or got caught up in instants. Was that always the plan, to just pick up places as you went, or did you have a particular strategy in mind?
I think it was just kind of getting the feel for the car. I didn't know how the warm-up would be after the formation lap, so I was a bit cautious to start with the tyres. But also, it's a 60-minute race, so I thought, there's a lot that can happen in a long space of time. So I eased myself into it, and then once I got up to the pace and was on the back of Matthew Croft for a while, I felt like I had a lot more. So that's when we put the charge on a little bit.
Well, you definitely put the charge down, like you say, and in the end, managing to find your way forward. Although we did see a lot of a GT3 class try and go as long as possible. There were some who went for the undercut. Where did you find yourself in the strategic stakes?
I think it was about, maybe I had 2 or 3 laps of fuel left from a full tank. So I was kind of doing what Charlie Devlin was doing. I was trying to follow that. I knew last time when we did the media race at Silverstone, I had a little bit of an accident and I pitted very early, which I felt was the wrong call. So I had to manage a lot towards the end. So my goal for today was to I knew Charlie was the top man. So again, congratulations to him for a great race today. I couldn't close that gap at all, but I thought I would do exactly what he did.
Well, you definitely mirrored him in terms of strategy, and it worked out very nicely, gradually progressing you to second. Of course, there's the caveat of the retirements of the sim car, not the sim car, excuse me, the sim coach driver Marley Joff, who was leading, plus also difficulties of Andrew Dawson. But you got to stay out of trouble. And I have to ask, what was it like to drive the McLaren with the extra power and less weight? Because we saw towards the end, particularly through the final corner, a lot of the GT3 is getting very light on the rear.
Yeah, it was quite a weird one, to be fair, because in some corners it was like a rocket. It was on rails. You could almost drive it like a go-kart in a way. But yeah, some corners like the long left-handers, the long right-handers into turn 2 or 3, I think it is. It got really light there, so we just had to kind of make sure we went in with that in mind and counter-steered around it, and eased into it, and then kind of made the time up in the rest of the circuit. But I feel like the car it suits me very well.
Well, the car seems to suit you nicely, and it is looking as though things are going to move forward as the season goes on for you. Have you set yourself any targets for this season?
I came into this with a top 5, so top 5 would be great for me for the championship. Any more than that is a bonus, but we're not going to settle for that. So we'll go all in, see where we can get to in the end. So who knows? We may be able to get top 3.
Oh, I'm liking the spirit, not settling for anything less than what you can take out there and even more. And next up, the Miami International Autodrome, a very different style of circuit, perhaps. How are you feeling for it?
I've just raced this circuit in the ARA Porsche Cup. It was a little bit difficult for me. It's a difficult car anyway for that circuit. So it doesn't fill me with confidence, but plenty of practice before the race. We've got plenty of time. So plenty of practice and just get my head stuck in, and we'll make it a good weekend.
Oh, fantastic. We definitely look forward to seeing you aim to make it a good weekend there. But just before we do let you go, is anybody out there who would like to give a shout out or a thank you to?
Absolutely. Shout out to the top 3. Obviously myself, P2, Matthew and Charlie. They did a great race today, and also a big thank you to the Altitude 3M Esports team. I would not be here without them. They've developed me as a driver on sim racing in a big way. There's a lot of good guys in that team, all know their stuff. So they've pushed me on. They've supported me every championship I've done. So big thank you to them. Won't be anywhere without.
Oh, well, the team will definitely appreciate the shout out, and we've appreciated you joining me in the interview room. Joey, congratulations on finishing run up today in GT3. Certainly more to come in the pursuit of podiums, if not a race win in Miami. We'll see you there, but until then, have a lovely evening, and thank you for your time once again.
Thank you very much, guys.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Joey Ireland. Very happy with his performance today, but also admitting there the fact the challenge in qualifying for trying to find the space, but also admitting the fact that you're not really going to find much out there in terms of time when it comes to qualifying. It's in the race where it needs to be done. And doing very well to make up the pace and places. Picking up a lot of pace, finding his way past Matthew Croft, who he saw as his stable rival for the purpose of this race. Perhaps a bit of a rivalry growing between the two of them, and a few needles there as well. But Joey Ireland in the end taking that second place. Not quite able to match Charlie Devlin for pace, but matched him for strategy and made it work out. And well, fancy his chances for even more podium glory at Miami, although I have raced it in the Apex Racing Academy at Porsche Cup recently, and now going to race it in a beefed up McLaren GT3, a very different style of car perhaps, but you can be certain the Altitude 3M Esports driver Joey Ireland will try to tame it and make sure that he can come away magnificent from Miami. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now get ready for our third interview. And well, I do believe we're going to be coming to none other than our third podium finisher in the GT3 class. So give us a brief moment and we'll be catching up with them. And it's going to be none other than, I do believe, Matthew Croft, who we hear from. As our music does cut out there, we do apologise for that. We are just tweaking a few things in the background. And in fact, we now come to the car of Matthew Croft. And so, as we do come to him, and indeed his machinery, we are now going to catch him in the interview room. And so in comes Matthew Croft. And as he joins me now, good evening to you, Matthew. And well, what a race for yourself today. Went a little bit under the radar from the purposes of our cameras, but to be fair, 4th to 3rd, a podium on your season opening race. You must be happy with that.
Kind of happy with it. If I can be upset about being 3rd, I had 2nd at one point. And just slightly lost the rear end on the last corner, let Joey by. I just got held up by traffic and held up by traffic. I just felt like I was cursed the whole race by traffic, just getting him in the wrong places. So having second in my grasps and letting it go just not from raw pace, because I had raw pace on Joey as well. So it's just getting second place because the traffic was a bit annoying. But I'll take third for now. There's plenty of time to get more.
Oh, indeed. Plenty more rounds to come, but I do love the spirit already and the fact that whilst third is good, you're not satisfied with it, given second was a new grasp. Now, qualifying-wise, it was a bit interesting given the fact it was only really 100 separating the front 2 rows. Were you happy with your qualifying lap?
No, I wasn't, to be fair. It took me, qualifying 25 minutes, 20 minutes. It took me at least 10 minutes to actually get a half-decent lap in because traffic was just so painful. I think once people had got an half-decent lap in, they were like, yeah, I'm not going back out there. That's just chaos. So towards the end, it was actually got a bit better. My optimal was a 21.9. I think I did a 22.3. So I had plenty more in it. I had 3 or 4 tenths left in it, but I just couldn't hook it together because by the time I got the track clear, I pushed too hard and lit the tyres up a bit too much trying to get through traffic, and the car wasn't really in optimal state at that time. It was just getting it lined up was just impossible. Such a tiny track, 120s with however many cars and multi-class. It's such a little track that the racing is fun, but the qualifying is so difficult on something that small.
Well, tough qualifying session, but like you say, in the end, the racing became fun. And in the race, we did see you make that early progress and chase after the second place. Everything looked to be proceeding to plan, and then you found the GT4 cars out there once again.
Yeah, I just kept getting them on the last corner. So I'm not able to power through the last corner because I'm having to take the inside of them, because you're not going to take the outside because they'll just wash out and kill you. So take the inside, so you have to lift a little bit, and then on that big long straight you're losing however many tenths every single lap by lifting there. And then on T1 I kept getting caught in T1, the most important 2-3 corners to the main straight, so I just kept getting caught on. And I was just watching Joey in front of me tenth up, 2 tenths, 3 tenths, and thinking, oh Jesus, he's just disappearing. And it also doesn't help that I thought, I'll leave a bit more fuel in on the pit stop just in case, because you don't want to finish with no fuel. Finish with 2 laps of fuel. I was just like, finish 2 laps. I was even driving, I got the white flag. I was like, what, white flag already? Oh yeah. And lo and behold, I started catching him though. Last 3 or 4 laps, I think I caught him by about 3 seconds. So it proves that I had the pace there. I just couldn't get through the traffic. Maybe 3 or 4 more laps I could have been on him, but too little, too late.
Well, to be fair, with the extra fuel there, you were able to make your way to the pit lane and definitely get to the podium, whereas many had to tow to the pits. Not the way you want it to end, though. You want to be on the lightest possible car and not have too much fuel and spend too much time in the pits. But it was a solid drive for yourself. And how did it feel, the car? Because, of course, you used to race in GT3s with their standard iRacing performance spec, but we have our beefed-up McLaren.
Yeah, so I've done a couple of officials this week with McLaren at Indy. So it's GT Sprint this week. The McLaren's not too good in GT Sprint this week on the BOP. There's a few other cars that are ahead of it. So I was like, I'll just keep practicing with McLaren because I'm going to use it tonight. Came in it tonight and I thought, holy Christ, that thing is fast. Getting used to it through the week, and I jumped in it today. I was like, I spun it out the pits. I was like, wow, this has got some welly to it. It's it was quite interesting not being able to get on the power so early because the weight's so light and the power so heavy that, I think it's T4, the way you got to really be so patient and gentle on the power coming back onto it to actually get it to hook up too early and just wants to spin. The setups are good. They reward patience and underdriving. And I think a lot of people aren't used to that, so I think they're really struggling with them. But I've had loads of coaching sessions with the likes of Tom Griggs and Andy, who was in the race today, loads of Andy, and the way he drives is very underdriving, and it gets him pace. The guy drives so, if you any more relaxed, he'd be asleep, sort of thing. But that's how you're meant to do it, and that's how their setups are, and they are really good. You get the guys just need to start underdriving a little bit more, and you'll see the benefits from them.
All fair play, and really appreciate the insight there on the setup and the driving style you have to apply. And it'll be interesting, like you say, to see how people adapt to the way the car's set up as the season goes on, because this is the first time out for many bar practice in what is the souped up McLaren GT3 and also GT4. But of course, a podium today when it could have been a second, but it was a third. Next up, Miami International Autodrome. Will we see you on the podium there?
So last season, I think I did the last Sunday season. I was in the BMW, not the BMW, the Merc. Did really well there. Had some fantastic pace. I'm more of a front engine rear wheel drive guy. So coming into McLaren, it's a bit spicier than I'm used to. So maybe you might see a little bit more pace there, but I'm worried about the traffic. It's going to be chaos. That back straight's probably your best place to overtake until you go into the sort of, I don't know what the corner's called, but it's like a carousel-ish corner, and then under the bridge. Jeez, you're not going to be able to overtake anybody until the very back straight. So as long as I can keep out of trouble, I think that's going to be the main thing in Miami. Is it's not about raw pace. I think it's going to be about keeping out of trouble, weaving through the traffic, and being patient. I think that's what people are going to get rewarded with this season. I can just tell by looking at some of the way that the driving's happening. A lot of the people in the GT4, I think, aren't as experienced as some of the GT3 drivers, so they're coming off the driving line to let the GT3 pass, and it's actually stick to your driving line and let us go past, because I've nearly rear-ended 3 people doing that, like going to overtake and they pull in front of you, like, okay, I get it's nice, thank you very much, but it doesn't help. So if that happens at Miami, there's going to be some big accidents, and especially under that bridge, if there's an accident there, it's going to back up. It's going to be really difficult. So, hoping another podium. Hoping, I'd have to keep winning. And if I can get second or third or fourth every other race or every race across the season, that's where your points keep coming. If I can keep rolling the points in, I've got a good chance of getting somewhere.
Oh, 100%. I'd agree with you on that. And we look forward to seeing you chase the podium at Miami, even if traffic is a bit of a risk there. But just before we do let you go, I can already see there a big thank you from BRT Benson in the YouTube chat to reference what you said earlier on. But is there anybody else you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to on the broadcast?
My team. Yeah, as per usual, the team with Tom and everyone else, Tom, the team owner, and everyone else there are always helpful. My friend Ash Brooks, who's also in the race, does all our liveries. Car's looking absolutely beautiful this season. So it's a brand new livery for us. We're trialing out for this series. I think it looks fantastic, and he's been working like hell to get them all done, and all the car photos and everything. He's been doing everything for all of us. So especially Brooks, yeah, thanks to him for all his hard work, keeping us going and keeping us all straight and narrow.
Oh, I'm sure Ashley will really appreciate that. And I have to agree, the liveries are looking phenomenal on the cars, just like you've been phenomenal today. Matthew, we'll leave it there. Congratulations on making it onto the podium in the GT3 class. Not quite the podium you wanted, but definitely a podium. And we'll see you at Miami to see if you can go one step further, if not the ultimate step of victory. But until then, my friend, have a lovely rest of your evening.
You too, mate. Thank you very much for your time.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from a bittersweet Matthew Croft. On the one hand, a podium, great. On the other hand, not the way he wanted it to go. He wanted the second, he had his hands on the second, but catching GT4 cars at the wrong time, and well, just everyone getting used to each other. 10-round season, of course, and for many, this will be the first time that they have been on a GT3, GT4 combined grid, and everyone's got to learn. That's the thing as well. You've got pros out there, you've got AMs, you've got pro-AMs, whole mixture of drivers, and everyone will get used to each other as time goes on. But of course, some of the quicker drivers there, it doesn't quite work out for them at the time. And for Matthew Croft today, definitely rolling ones when he should have been rolling D20s, and well, the 113 driver in the end finding they had to settle for third. But he's got the pace, he's enjoying the feel of the car, and knowing you need to underdrive it to get the most out of it. And well, at Miami, could we see him on the podium again? Could we see him go for second or first? We'll have to wait and see. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now get ready for another interview as we go to the GT4 class. And well, next up in the interview room is none other than Ryan Stringer, your runner-up today in GT4. Let's hear what he's got to say as he joins me now in the interview room. Ryan, good evening to you, and congratulations on a second place day in GT4. A great result for yourself, and indeed adding to a podium from your teammate in GT3.
Yeah, that was a interesting race.
Oh, it definitely looked a tough one out there, whether you're in GT3 or GT4, but focusing on yourself, I mean, going all the way from 9th to 2nd in class, did you surprise yourself a bit, or is this the result you expected to get, and perhaps qualifying was a bit of a failure, should we say?
Yeah, qualifying, was a mess. I mean, couldn't get a clean lap at all. So yeah, going into qualifying, I was like, yeah, I could get like P3 maybe. And then yeah, I went into the end of qualifying. I was like, oh great, I'm down P9. I'll just pick off one by one. I got rear-ended on lap 1 by a driver behind on the back straight, and then I was just battling damage and fuel saving, I should say, but then got some wheel damage just before the pit stop. So yeah, I'm not happy that I was 10 seconds behind P1, but for the situations that I was in going through the first half, it isn't too bad. I thought it would have been a lot worse, the deficit, and I think the slight undercut worked quite well for me against Brandon.
Oh, indeed, and off the back of that, we did see a brilliant race-long battle between yourself and Altitude 3M's Brandon Dyer. The two of you looked very even on pace. Jack Wyborn also was a part of that until he wasn't with an early incident. I mean, just take us through that dynamics. The three of you look so even, but you, like you say, seem to have the smarts and strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I've got like last year I did the EGT series, so I kind of knew what the plan was coming into this race. It was sit there, focus, don't push the car because the GT4s don't like being pushed. So it was more coast driving and relaxed to find the time. And then yeah, I mean, when I was behind Brandon, I was in slight little issues when he was going late on the brakes and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna profit from this. And then when he came out of the pit lane, we were neck and neck. I don't know what happened after that because he just tumbled down the times. But yeah, no, Brandon held a good battle at the start. Shame he didn't carry on because once I got clear of him after the pit stop, it was a bit of a lonely race, avoiding some GT3 mayhem.
Oh, indeed. Like you say, a bit of a lonely ends the race for yourself. But interesting, coming back to that point from earlier on, and it's a bit of a what-if question, I know, but do you feel then, if it hadn't quite gone wrong at certain points in the race yourself, that you had the pace to chase down our race winner, Marinko Jordanovsky?
Yeah, I mean, there was a point that he was like, I mean, just before the pit stop, he was 14 seconds, and then we come out the pit lane and he was 11. I got it down to like 7 seconds, and then had a few issues with some GT3s lapping me, which yeah, cost me some time. So yeah, I think going into Miami in 2 weeks' time, it's going to be a totally different ball game. It's going to be even more chaos. So just picking it off one by one, and hopefully I can change the second place to a first place.
Oh, indeed. We'd love to see you go for the win. And Miami, a bit of a difficult circuit. Many of our fellow interviews who we've spoken to were saying about the fact the risk of traffic, also quite a tight circuit. But perhaps I'll expand the question a bit further. Are there any circuits on this calendar where we should really look at you and go, right, this is Ryan Stringer's circuit to take the win?
I mean, I think the European side will give me a good chance. Yeah, I think it's going to be the European side of the series. I'll probably have the better chance. I don't do much American tracks racing wise unless it's oval. So yeah, Miami. It's gonna be luck of the draw. It's gonna be a 50-50 if you're gonna get crashed or you're not. Sonoma, it's gonna be an interesting one. It's undulations and the S's of the final sector. It's going to be interesting trying to avoid the GT3s that are a lot better on the downforce. So yeah, I think realistically, I think if memory serves me correctly, Portimao, I was very fast in EGT last year. So possibility Portimao will be the track for me.
Oh, I love that. We'll keep an eye out for you at the season finale as that being the track for you. But just before we do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention or a shout out to on the broadcast?
Yeah, I'll give a big shout out to Charlie. I mean, he drove amazingly tonight. I'll give a shout out to my main team, Scorpio Esports, that probably watching. Shout out to the sponsors that are Anti Rip Rip Club. They outsource a lot of Pokemon. If anyone was watching that wants to collect them, he's a really good guy. So appreciate the approval to run the logos on the car. And then shout out to my family, my partner that's been sitting in the living room watching the race, my dad that's been watching from his house, and anyone else that has been watching from my notifications.
Oh, a fair play. Well, Ryan, we'll leave it there. It's been great catching up with you, and congratulations on taking the runner-up spot today in GT4. Not the win you were targeting, but to be fair, plenty more rounds to come, and you've definitely shown your pace today. Well done on being run-up today, and we'll see you at Miami. Have a great rest of your evening.
You too. See ya.
And well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Ryan Stringer, the future class racing driver, and indeed a podium there to go with the victory in GT3 for his teammate Charlie Devlin. The two working very close together, no doubt about it. And Ryan happy as a whole with the result, but knowing there was more out there, it just didn't quite work out with the way the GT3 traffic negotiated with him, plus also understandably in the end losing a bit of time, and also battling with Brandon Dyer. Said that he had a bit of a lonely race after the pit stop. He worked out in strategy by comparison, where Brandon hitting a lap later and losing a considerable bit of time after the pit stop. But it was a very smooth run from Ryan Stringer, no doubt about it. And well, he's doing out there with his sponsors, being in the trade of collecting Pokemon cards. Well, I'm not going to say it without a pun being intended, which is for Ryan Stringer at Miami, he's got to go catch the ball. Will he be able to do so? We'll have to wait and see then, because otherwise, if he doesn't get it right, well, he won't find any tall grass out there. He'll find the barriers at Miami, but I'm sure he'll steer clear of them. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got one more interview to come in GT4 to complete our interviews for this season opener. And, well, let's come to our final interview. We've been keeping him waiting for so long. And, well, we're going to make our way to none other than Patrick Forate, I do believe, as he now does join me in the interview room. And here he comes. As he does join me in the interview room. Good evening to you, Patrick. And, well, a bit of a tough race for some, but for yourself, I think you've had plenty of fun out there today, taking 16th in the GT4 class.
Yeah, hello, Paul. It was a really tough race for me. I'm quite sad and disappointed with my performance in this race. I had my goal to finish at least in top 10, which I think I even had pace for that. It was just so many incidents and crashes, and even the drive-through for me with those contacts with GT3. So yeah, it's pretty disappointing.
Oh, fair play. A bit of a disappointing one, but let's try and talk about some of the positives from today. Firstly, learning the GT4. I believe this is your first exposure to the McLaren GT4, and with it, a bit more engine power than it would normally have.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I drove last time in the preseason test on the Solarstone, which wasn't a good race. It was not a good race anyway. So yeah, I'm quite new in GT4 in iRacing, so I'm just still learning. And Indianapolis was basically I drove like first time in here. I never drove like in any sim on the Indy, so it was like first time, and I had to learn a lot.
Oh, goodness me. We're learning not just the car, but also the circuit. You've done well to learn it all. Let's talk a bit about qualifying. In the end, taking 18th in class. Now, we've heard from our GT3 drivers who talked about the fact it was tough out there to find the space. But what was it like as a GT4 driver trying to get a lap together in qualifying?
I think it was even harder for the GT4s because there is like no space at all, and especially on the Indianapolis, which is a really small track for all those cars. And like I said, I could easily go at least 1 second faster in qualifying, but there was like no space, and every GT3 car I saw, they just passed me everywhere, so I couldn't do any proper lap.
Oh, I see. A tough one there with regards to qualifying. Appreciate the insight. And when we did go racing, at least in the early stages, we did see you make some progress through the field and enjoying a bit of battling with some of your rivals before the GT3s came around to put laps on you.
Yeah, it was actually quite a nice start from my side, I would say. I was up to like I think like P9 or P10 after a few laps. Then there was an incident when I ran into the back of GT4s in front of me. I even now don't know what happened. I had to check the replay for that because I braked at my usual braking spot at a 500 mark, and I still run into back of them. So that's on me. I'm very sorry about that. But even now don't know what happened. But yeah, it was good first part of the race out.
Well, indeed, a great start, but like you say, a couple of incidents occurring that definitely did upset the race and in that drive-through penalty, but you didn't give up and you did get to the finish, what it's all about, and I get the feeling that's going to be the attitude for this season. Every lap's a learning lap, don't give up.
Yes, exactly. I'm quite, I mean, I am sad with the performance, but I'm happy with the finishing position, which I finished like P16 or something like that. So first of all, I still made the places from the qualifying, which I'm happy for. And yeah, like you said, just not that I don't want to give up when the race is not going my way. And yeah, I still managed to get at least P6.
Oh, I love the spirit, to be fair. And you're right in the fact that you've gained places compared to where you started, and you did beat drivers who finished behind you. It wasn't as though everyone behind you had retired. So next up, the Miami International Autodrome in 2 weeks. What's the game plan?
To be honest, I'm supposed to have vacation, and we are going away just at the day of the race. So hopefully I can make it. I'm not sure if I can make it. So we will see if I will be on the grid for the Miami.
Oh, fair play. Well, if you can't quite make it, we'll have to see if we do have our reserve driver at Quakemas Motorsport jump in for you. But if we do see you on the grid, that would be fantastic. And Patrick, just before I do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Yes, of course I have. First of all, big thanks to all of the Quakemas Motorsport, and especially to Andy for keeping me and letting me into the team because I'm quite new in the team. And of course my girlfriend, which is already sleeping just behind me, who should let me drive these races into the night. So thanks all of you.
Oh, fantastic. And Patrick, a big thank you to you for joining us for an interview after today's racing. It may not have worked out, but still, places gained, points gained as well. And if we get to see you at Miami, fantastic. If we don't, well, then we will most likely get to see you in 4 weeks' time, and that'll be in round number 3 at Sonoma. But until then, thank you for joining me in the interview room, and have a lovely rest of your evening.
Yeah, you too, and thanks for having me, Paul. Thank you.
So here now, ladies and gentlemen, from Patrick 48, the Quakemas Motorsport driver in the number 48. And well, I do love his positive attitude there. That is something that has to be commended. In the fact, talking about the fact, even though he had a tough race, he had pace early on, he was able to make places, and he finished ahead of where he started. And fundamentally, when you start out in sim racing, or when you're learning a car or a track, and it's your first race, particularly somewhere, that is the goal. Finish where you start, or finish above it. If you do that, you are achieving something. And he's done exactly that. And what a way to dive in at the deep end as well. He's never driven the McLaren GT4 before, apart from the pre-season event at Silverstone. And he's never really raced at Indianapolis. So he's had to learn Indianapolis, and he's learning the car, and he's not running a standard specification of the car either. I mean, there's nothing more you could do in order to make it any difficult other than it be your first time on a sim rig, which is definitely not for Patrick. And well, in doing so, well, definitely giving himself a tough time, but enjoying it out there, and we look forward to seeing him back out there in the near future. Now, if he does miss Miami, of course, it'll be understandable. We'll massively miss him. We'll definitely catch him at Sonoma, and we wish him, if we don't see him on the grid in 2 weeks' time, we wish him a lovely holiday away, and hope to see him again very soon for the Quakemas Motorsport team. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that does complete our interviews for this round, and without further ado, we now look ahead to next time in the championship. Because our next round in 2 weeks' time sees us make our way to the Miami International Autodrome on Wednesday, the 26th of August. It's going to be a 90-minute race there, the first of our endurance races, and we've got mixed conditions on the cards at a circuit that's very young in life, but indeed has already had plenty of history enshrined into it. Albeit as the drivers get ready to take on the circuit that runs around the Hard Rock Stadium, the home of the Miami Dolphins, who will find themselves swimming to the top, and who will find themselves drowning in despair. With all all that and more, we'll definitely find out there as the story will continue in round number 2 of the SimRacing International Transatlantic Trophy, powered by trophi.ai. And, well, we'd just like to say a big thank you to you guys and girls for all tuning in. We've absolutely loved having you tune in today. And if you've already enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe so that way you can stay up to date with the next edition of the championship. And do let us know if there's anything we can do to improve these broadcasts even more. We know the music levels were a little bit wonky today, and we'll definitely work on those for the purposes of round number 2 onwards. But until then, thank you very much for tuning in. And we'd just like to take a moment once again to say a big thank you to our championship sponsors. Firstly, our title sponsor, of course, that being Trophi.ai, and do check out the website trophi.ai, where you'll be able to experience a free 7-day trial for the absolutely brilliant software as developed by Driver61 that enables you to learn on the fly whilst you are in the sim racing rig, improving your lap time, improving your consistency, and improving your pace. And on top of that as well, you can take that data forward and spend that time, that valuable time, grinding and working away rather than guessing at how you need to improve. And well, Trophi.ai services out there improving the very best drivers all the way up to esports professionals. Indeed, why not take a look today and get signed up so that way you can move very rapidly up the ranks in the world of sim racing. Also, big shout out to Kame, our official trophy provider. Massively appreciate their input as always. Also to Sim Coach for providing the setups and also really getting behind this championship as well as our sponsors. And also, of course, a big shout out to our official photographer and sponsor for this series, Mr. Hedge, iRacing Photography. And lastly, I must give a big shout out to Motorsports UK Esports division for not just recognising us here at SimRacing International as a recommended community. We're very grateful for that recognition, but also giving us their approval for this championship, and that's why this Motorsport UK Esports approved championship, one of the highest in the regard, and we look forward to continue to work with Motorsport UK Esports throughout the entirety of this season. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, just to remind you again, of course, we're going racing next time at the Miami International Autodrome, 2 weeks' time. Save the date, Wednesday, 26th of August. We'll see you there. But until then, you've been tuning into the SimRacing International Transatlantic Trophy Season 1. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.
For the upcoming right-hander, brake 30 meters later and ease off the pressure.